The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Competitors have reached the midpoint at the FIDE candidates in Toronto, Canada. Rain clouds filled the sky outside, but inside the playing hall, the world's top players were shining brightly. Despite having chances, Hikaru Nakamura was unable to capitalize on his advantage, allowing Jan Nepomniachtchi to stabilize and navigate to a draw to remain in first place. It looked harder than wrestling an alligator, but eventually Alireza Firouzja clamped down, playing brilliantly in time pressure to defeat co-leader Gukesh for his first win. Familiar faces remain atop each group. How long will it last? Day 8 of Can't Miss Chess, coming up next.
Welcome back to Toronto. We are in the playing venue of the FIDE Candidates Tournament. Players had just rest day and now they're ready to fight in the second half of the tournament. Let's go back to the studio and follow the action.
We have clear leaders in both the Open and Women's tournaments. Is it time for someone to make a big comeback? We'll find out next as round 8 starts right now. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host Nazi Paikidze and I'm here with Grandmasters Yasser Seirawan and Evgeny Miroshnichenko.
Nazi, Miro. Great free day, guys? Good free day?
Well rested.
I feel it too. Hello everybody and welcome to our live coverage of the 2024 Candidates Tournament. We reached the halfway point and we're ready for round 8. Historically, the indicators favor our tournament leaders, of which we have 2 in both sections. Let's start with the Open. Nazi, do the honors. Who's leading?
Let's take a look. In the Open, our leader is Jan Nepomniachtchi with 4.5 points. And just half a point behind are 3 players, Fabiano, Caruana, Pragg, and Gukesh.
And half a point behind them, Vidit and Hikaru. And in the ladies section, who's leading there?
In the ladies, Zhongyi with 5 points. Only half point behind Aleksandra Goryachkina, and sharing third, Lei Tingjie and Kateryna Lagno.
Do the honors. Tell us about the pairings for this round 8. Start with the Open, please. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Big matchups today. We have Hikaru Nakamura against Fabiano Caruana, Jan Nepomniachtchi playing Abasov, Pragg against Firouzja, and Vidit playing Gukesh.
That marquee matchup right there between Hikaru and Fabi. Let's just drill down on that one for a second, because these 2 players certainly know each other very well. 12 classical wins versus 9 losses and 37 draws for Hikaru. Hikaru's candidate record, he's only +1. He's won 8 games in the candidate, lost 7, 20 draws, whereas Fabi has a lot more experience, including a victory in one of the candidates. He has had 14 wins, 8 losses, 41 draws. And tell us about the pairings for the ladies.
Let's take a look. We have Kateryna Lagno playing Aleksandra Goryachkina.
Wow, another huge matchup there.
Indeed. Salimova playing Muzychuk.
Right.
Zhongyi against Lei Tingjie.
Marquee matchups in every section.
And Koneru against Vaishali.
Fantastic. And tell us about the schedule, the remaining schedule now that we're at the halfway point.
Today, players are playing round 8, and we'll have 3 games in a row until the next rest day. In case of a tie, we'll have a special tie breaks day.
Lovely. And Miro, now that we've reached the halfway point, history provides us with the answer to the question. Who's going to be the challenger?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, like, my honest, unbiased opinion would be that I don't know who's going to win, but we have assembled some stats on previous candidates editions. Let's check it out. So the candidate's winner has always been leading or tied for the first after round 7, after first half of the tournament. And we are talking the modern history starting in 2013. However, while you need this, but it's not enough, as Levon Aronian was tied for the first after the first half in both 2013 and 16 and finished outside the top 3. Well, Nepo, with his sole lead, obviously has the better chances mathematically, simply more points. And what's interesting, the tournament winner has never held a minus record for any round in the candidates, which pretty much excludes our well, 2 players at the bottom of the cross table, Firouzja and Abasov. So what can we deduct from here? Well, Nepo on +2, 2 wins, no losses, undefeated.
Right.
Well, average score, or rather the minimal score the candidate tournament has been won is +3. So theoretically, Nepo needs only to win 1 game and not to lose any.
Right.
Then we have Fabiano, Caruana, Gukesh and Pragg in pretty much the same situation on +1. Caruana being the only one undefeated, so well, didn't suffer defeat, but won least games out of the group of pursuers. Well, and Vidit and Nakamura on 50% with 1 loss, 1 win each.
Right.
They still keep theoretical chances to win the event, but for this, of course, they have to have a tremendous second half of the tournament. Right, and let's hear from Toronto, from Anastasia.
Hello, Yasser, Nazi and Miro. I hope you had really good rest day yesterday, so did I. I went to the premiere of the documentary about the candidates tournament in Berlin 2018, which Fabio won, actually. And it was really amazing to see this event and to realize that Fabio is actually the only player who made it from 2018 all the way to 2024. He's the only participant who played both in the candidates in Berlin and here in Toronto. I asked him yesterday if he would like to go to attend this movie, but he said that he's more interested in the presence, in what's happening today in Toronto candidates. And of course, he has all reasons, because today he is playing against Hikaru Nakamura, and I'm looking forward to this game. I hope we will have some interviews with players after that. Don't forget to follow our social media accounts to get more content. So go back to the studio.
Thank you, Anastasia. The candidates, the movie, must see.
Must see.
Oscar nominations are, just a second, envelope. The players are obviously fighting for the first, but there's a lot of prize money. Let's just review what that is, starting with the Open. Nazi.
In the Open, the prize fund is as follows. First place, 48,000 euros. Second place, 36. Third, 24. And in addition, each player will receive 3,500 euros for every half point scored.
And in the ladies, what are they fighting for?
In the ladies, first place is 24,000 euros. Second place, 18. Third, 12. And each player will receive 1,750 for every half point scored.
Thank you. Miro, let's just jump right into it. Our marquee matchup. Tell me there's action in the
well.
And Hikaru is white, actually, so it's the Hikaru.
As much as I would kind of like to drive the excitement higher, well, the position is not promising much as of yet.
Right.
It's a relatively standard position that I would say some 10 years ago we would see quite often from gioco piano Italians, or in our case it was the Spanish, but the structure is very similar to gioco piano Italians. And we could look at this one later on. Well, computers' evaluation is quite brutal. Position is absolutely equal with any sane move from white, and then black has to play any sane move
as well
in response. Yeah, and I think we've discussed this briefly with Yasser. I have to say, I think we came to the conclusion that from human standpoint, it's sort of easier to play with black, this kind of setups, and for quite a few reasons. A very stable knight on d5, right? And that's what we enjoy. Black king is, well, quite safe. And, you know, this psychological thing that usually the player with white, he's opting for an advantage. So the moment there is no advantage, you lose part of your excitement.
Right.
That's one thing. And also, yeah, and by the same token, like you've equalized with black and it's not a dead draw, you're starting to be a bit curious about, can I play for a little bit more than a draw? Well, bishop d2 was just played by Hikaru.
But my spidey sense immediately jumped when I saw the move bishop d2. I'm a pawn grabber. Miro, knight f6. Can I?
You want to go
May I?
knight f6
May I?
and
Yes,
win
yes,
this
yes,
pawn.
yes.
Okay, let's ask the machine. And you would think you're winning a pawn. And in a case if the rook returns, indeed you do.
Yay.
And this is, once again, I'd be a bit surprised to see machine evaluation because, yes, black is better, but only by a tiny margin. It says white has enough compensation. However, after bishop d2, knight f6, the move that computer likes is bishop to g5. So
Giving
pinning
away
the knight, not retreating the rook, and yeah, the logical follow-up would be h7, h6, because otherwise it's impossible to get rid of this pin.
Right.
So h7, h6, here I'm checking once again, but no, white doesn't really have any options but to trade. Queen f6, and this is, well, according to the machine, is somewhat more pleasant for white. No big thing, but apparently, like, the d4 pawn is not that weak.
Okay.
And strangely enough, if we go back to this position, we would say white has a pair of bishops, but perhaps this bishop on d2 is not very useful.
No.
And white is relatively happy to trade it in our line, and after queen d2, well, when I'm saying white's better, it's 0.15, so that's something really minimal and can shift with one move or two moves. So that's an equal position.
Thank you very much, Miro. Nasi. Shall we take a look around? Because for me, this matchup also between Vidit and Gukesh, when you think about the tournament standings, Gukesh at +1, Vidit at 50%, I mean, a lot is riding on the outcome of this position. And we
Both players need a win, for sure.
Yes, and for Gukesh, who just came off a dramatic encounter with Alireza. What's going on? We thought it was pretty evenish when we came in.
I think at some point we agreed that black was a little bit better, but now looking at it, black looks much better. Have full control of the A file.
Okay.
Rook can come into A2.
Exactly. That's a little...
Then queen can come into A4, and we can even triple on A file.
Right. It's disturbing because this last move by white, king G1 to H2, kind of says, door's open. Come on in. Come on down, if you will. But on the other hand, what is it that white really has on the queen side? I mean, as white, I'm really aspiring for, I don't know, C5 and maybe B6. So you can stop me. You can just play B6 yourself and put a kibosh on. The problem is, I don't see, you've got the A file. I'm very objective. I try to add up the trumps in my mind. So the trumps for me as white, I have the half-open F file. So I should exploit that. Rook takes F6. Well, that's not happening. I have the F5 square. Put a knight on F5. Well, that's taking some time.
Even that is difficult to manage.
Right. So I don't see the pluses as readily as you've identified the pluses for black. Rook A2, Rook A4, B7, B6. All of those moves make what...
Gukesh is definitely in the driver's seat right now.
Right.
And he also has more time on the clock. He has 57 minutes against 35.
Right.
So with the black pieces, what more could you ask for, right?
Exactly. The only thing I might say in Vidit's favor is, like, somehow if I could get in a C5 and knight C4, even at the cost of a rook takes B5, if I could somehow manage that, I can see some tactics.
You could possibly lose E4 pawn.
Yeah, along the way.
Yeah.
Not that happy and keen. Let's go around the horn and also go to another key matchup, and that's between Prague and Alireza. When we were coming here, it was a very funny moment. This move, knight on C3 to B5, because
yes, we've seen knight D to B5, but this one was a novelty for me.
Right, me too. I mean, I was like, because I always thought that whenever we reach, let's say, this type of a position in the Sicilian, we like the extra center pawn. Miro, if you don't mind, jump to this game. Talk about knight B5 for a second. That was a confusing move.
Right, so it was confusing to all of us as we were discussing. I just checked, it is a legit move, but
It is legit.
one of the less popular.
Okay.
And my knowledge about this position was very simple. The line that nowadays is no longer played, bishop to e3, and you're waiting for black to go a6 in order to play bishop b6, which leads to some really crazy positions where chances are equal, but this is like exciting to play.
Yeah.
Right, so after knight cb5, queen b8, bishop d3, and I think we stop here.
Yeah.
So what happened, white exchanged on c6, spent 2 tempi to go knight b5, knight d4.
Right.
But, yeah, so seems wasteful, but
Right.
at the same time, black has played a7, a6, the move that he doesn't really need in this structure,
Right.
and queen c7 to b8, while it's not necessarily harmful move, but neither it is like very useful.
Right.
So in a sense, we're just playing some structure and no one lost that much time.
Right.
Yep. And computer was recommending e5 here. Alireza went for c5, knight f3, knight to e7, arguably more Sicilian approach, so to speak. Yeah,
Right.
So hovering knight to c6. And here there was a moment where computer had a couple of suggestions. Both seemed very promising, very interesting. One would be b2, b3, and after, say, knight c6, you go bishop b2, and you're just in time to stop the bishop from f8 to developing. You're targeting g7 pawn. And it's not very
attractive.
comfortable. It's not very comfortable for black because no one likes to play f7, f6.
Right.
And the other move was very typical for computers nowadays. Like, you don't know what to do, just push your h4. Right? h4, well,
It works
here...
for Alireza.
Yeah, absolutely. And here it does make sense because one of the routes for black knight would be not to go to c6, but to g6
and
instead.
f4.
And here you're actually threatening to go h5 to disturb this knight. After castles, bishop b7, it's, well, it no longer looks as promising. But still, computer insists on b2, b3 being the way for white to develop. So b2, put the bishop on, b3, put the bishop on b2, and try to play in the centers. That's how I understand it. And instead, Prague goes for an absolutely different plan. So c3, rook to b1, bishop e7, and he goes with b4. Which, in a way, also makes sense, right? So potentially you have 2 pawns. Well, we assume c pawns are getting exchanged. You have 2 pawns versus 1. So you push forward, you create your passed pawn. However, well, with that many pieces on the board, usually the passed pawns are not that valuable.
Right.
So, well, computer has it as equal if black would have captured. Let me check what he has done. Queen
I have a
c7.
question.
Yep.
Have you guys seen rook b1, b4 in the Sicilian before? It's such a rare idea.
Yeah, it is not a Sicilian proper, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Rook b1, b4, some Maroczy binds maybe when you've got a pawn on c4, you might
Right.
go a3, b4.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
rare.
Almost
it's
sure
rare.
I've seen without the c pawns.
Right.
So where would it come from? So I mean, with this structure, with 2
Yeah.
pawns on the queen side against 1, and yeah, you start pushing. But would it be from the Sicilian? Arguably, we don't really have a Sicilian anymore
Yeah,
after this
exactly.
exchange, right?
Right.
Okay, so after queen c7, rook e1, d5, computer well, likes it. No, it doesn't really. It gives slight plus for white. And
Slight pass for white after.
after either bishop d2 or its favorite move h4. So let's make it entertaining. Let's just go h4.
Right.
What's going on? h4, and if black captures,
That would be my
white
question.
all of a sudden is very happy because he takes and he's threatening
Hello,
queen h5.
hello.
Okay.
It's a nice tactic.
So h4 is a legit move. What, you know, puzzles me, and also computer kind of doesn't understand what black is trying to gain by not exchanging on b4. So computer practically on every move it was saying like take on b4. Right. So Alireza has his own idea about it, but whoa! And look, after
What
b4,
happened?
what happened was b takes c5.
I would resist that move with every fiber of my being.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is, while not being bad, because, yeah, like, still keeps the position roughly equal, But this is such a surprising move to see.
Wow.
Such a surprising
Are
move.
we going to see rook b7 here?
Yeah, that's at
Probably.
least that's computer's top suggestion, to take here, to take on e4, and after queen to c7. Yeah, White's problem is he can win the exchange back, and for a brief moment he's a pawn up. But how do you keep the c5 alive?
Exactly.
Well, the answer you don't. You go bishop e3, and this one arguably is already quite pleasant for black, possibly even slightly better. So bc5 is something we probably are critical of.
Thank you for that explanation, Miro, especially that opening with knight b5, knight d4. That's such an unusual, well, rare bird. We'll see how this game, again, so important for our standings.
We should check our leaders game, Nepo against
Absolutely.
Abasov.
And for Nepo, obviously, as we highlighted at the top of the show there, he comes into the competition with a +2 score, clear lead. He's playing the lowest rated player in the field. Not only that, but Nijat is not playing very successfully. Nepo with whites thinking, I can pad my lead a little bit here. And today we have the situation with the move rook to a2.
Sometimes that strategy can backfire, however.
Right, especially when you go a little bit too far overboard, thinking this is a player I have to beat. As we were coming into studio and we were talking about this game, I'm wrongly confused as being a quiet positional player. No. The truth be told, I love attacking and give me the tactics. So the move f4 I find very attractive. Unfortunately, the move bishop c3 chills my strategy of playing f5 and going whole hog with f5 and f6, because bishop c3 hits the rook, hits the pawn on d4 with a check. Yeah. And that is upsetting. So I really found the move rook a2 quite attractive from Nepo's point of view. So the move rook a2, in some ways, it preps f4, and it imagines on a good day that the rook could actually swing itself, I don't know, into some kind of attacking situation. a7, a5, a good move. It defends the bishop. And very importantly, it sets up a very nice possible trap. I wanted to say that if I play f4 in this case, it's actually pretty funny, but there's the move b5.
What's the idea? Oh, knight c3?
Knight c3, right? And it's sort of like, oh no, I mean, I'm hitting the bishop, I'm hitting this pawn on b3, I'm hitting the rook on a2. So a5, no f4, rook e2, queen b6,
I have a question
rook
here.
e4, please.
After queen b6, instead of rook e4, was there bishop d5 and knight d7?
Wow.
I'm sure neither of these players missed this, so black must have something.
Right. So bishop d5, knight d7. Okay, so that's a pretty nasty fork. At first, like I was greedily reaching for the d4 pawn with both hands, thinking I was going to get, but there's bishop e2, which absolutely stopped me. Just a second. Hold on. Bishop takes queen d7, bishop takes d5. There's no other move than bishop takes d5. Knight to d7.
And I was thinking if you play queen b5.
Thank you. Of course. I have to play queen b5, no other choice.
Well, there's more tactics here.
Please.
Bishop h6.
Okay, so that threatens mate in one on g7. I'm assuming rook g8 is not the way I want to go.
Now
so
queen e5 check, defended my rook.
Oh, yo.
Miro has some lines.
Miro, I'm going to bail out of this one before I get in too deep. Save me.
Right you are.
Bishop d5 and knight d7, very forcing play.
Absolutely. The fun part about this particular one, that even the computer has it wrong. So in this position, it says bishop takes d5, white is better. And I don't know what's wrong with our computer, but it's certainly not deep enough. So
really?
bishop d5, and then the line you were discussing is absolutely correct. After, after knight d7, queen b5, white indeed is much better with bishop takes h6. So it works like bishop h6, pawn takes, queen e5, and black is in immense trouble, has to go f6. And
no me gusta.
ends
I
bad.
don't like. Yeah.
Absolutely. But after knight d7, there is this little move, queen a6, which
Defending
targets the
h6.
rook, keeps an eye on h6, but that's not all.
Okay.
Because you would think, okay, I go rook e5, attack the bishop, and
Double
the rook
attack.
is still hanging.
Right.
And guess what? There is rook e8. And then if
Yeah,
you
you don't
take the
want-
bishop, queen f1, and then checkmate on e1.
That's true.
And apparently, even the computer doesn't see it from afar. Because, seriously, in this position, computer suggestion, you can see it in a small text. It's bishop d5, white's better. But when you get to this position, it says queen a6 and black is better. So that's the point where we shouldn't be critical of our players. Rook e4, well, one of the good moves. And yeah, rook e4, knight c3. Here I was thinking of bishop h6, by the way, but it doesn't really work. Yeah, you can try bishop h6 and a check on g6. And then white, interestingly, white is better in this case. White is better in this case because rook h4 is a threat. If you take on c4, queen b6, black gets a lot of pieces, but still the king is weak and so on.
Right.
Yeah, but the sad thing for white is that black goes king h7, and then it just doesn't work. So you can take the rook, black captures back.
It doesn't work for white?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't work for white. Yeah, bishop e6,
Oh, I was even thinking
fe6.
rook e6 and no, rook e6.
Yeah,
and
rook
bishop
g4 or something would be lovely, but then there is knight e2 check, so you have to remain on the e file and the e6 pawn is protected.
Gotcha.
I think here white kind of loses the momentum because computer says rook e5 you can play, black is better already.
Okay.
Right, so rook e3 is correct, and bishop takes c4. So now our well, it's not over. It's not over, right? Because d4 is hanging. So what you apparently have to do is take with the knight. Queen takes d4, and black is also forced because otherwise the knight on c3 would be hanging.
Drops.
Bishop b2. You would think you're winning a piece.
Correct.
And the only move to keep black alive would be b7, b5. And yeah, something like that happens. Now, capturing on c3 leads to simplifications, as far as I understand. Yeah. So
we
the
move
funny
on,
line
right?
is knight takes a5, where computer... Well, it actually takes on a5. Yeah, I was thinking it would be funny because the first move that computer recommends is rook c8, just guard its own knight. But yeah, but if you don't want to play rook c8, you can just take on a5. White has nothing but to take on c3. It really simplifies a lot.
Wow, that's some crazy lines. And for those of you who are joining us late, shame on you. But why is this game between Jan and Nijat so critical? Well, look at the standings.
We have Jan in the sole lead. Meanwhile, Nijat is on the bottom of the field.
Precisely.
So if Abasov pulls off an upset or even half a point, that will make a big difference in the standings.
Absolutely. And you've really got to beat those players who have their target on their shoulders. But I'm kind of stunned by the current situation because I thought after rook e4, knight c3, I thought the whole plan, excuse me if I can, oh, it's e2. There's
92
e2.
always, yes. There's bishop c4 and 92.
Oh, I'm blind. And that was why you wanted to play knight g6 check to get out of those lines where e2 is hanging. So it went bishop takes h6, g takes h6.
Yeah, if you go rook h4, you still run into bishop takes c4 and a queen from b6 guards. You can show this one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, threatening the mate. Bishop takes c6, defends the mate on h6, but also nasty, nasty knight e2 check. And so that's why Jan pulled in his horns after the move knight c3. He played the move rook e3, and this is where we get
the current position.
to the current live position. Let me just refresh my board, and there you have it. Knight takes, and you're saying queen takes.
Queen d4. Yeah.
Bishop b2.
Bishop b2, and b5 would be the only move not to lose.
Right, and here again, it seems like this pin is so deadly, but how to exploit it.
Can we maintain the pin? So the
Where do
line
we-
Miro showed us was knight a5 that allows the trades. What if I play knight e5 just to keep the pieces on the board and keep the pin on c3?
The problem, as I see it, is we play rook c8 in this case, not, just defending. But similarly, move the knight, but maybe move the knight to a square where we can go knight a3. If you take, now I'm
Game
a
over.
genius, right?
Knight a3 is a brilliant move.
Except for...
And you can go for this line, and there is a chance Nepo went for this line, and he could see
From
knight
afar.
a3 at the end,
Yeah.
and would think he's winning.
Correct.
And something very similar, if you remember, happened in the 7th round, or 6th round there was, where Gukesh thought he was winning against Alireza, right?
Yeah.
And there was
Queen
one
d3.
queen move which would save the piece.
Queen d3.
So here, Queen d6 is the move to save the piece.
No.
Simply because the knight on a3 and the piece you capture on c3 run into a double attack at the very end. So queen takes,
d6.
bishop takes, and the moment you capture, there is b4, and
As well.
black gets the piece back.
So in this case, if I capture on c3, bishop takes c3, threatening mate.
Yeah.
Now you would trade the queens.
Trade the queens, then
Take
trade
the
bishops and go b4 and win the piece back. That's
And b4 wins the piece back. Oh, that's funny. Knight a.
Queen
By the way,
d6
queen
is
takes
easy
d.
to miss at the end of that line.
Truly. So this is the current. Without bishop b2, queen takes d4 is the current position, and I have to confess that I might, you have to be practical. You can't just analyze a variation to some unbelievable depth. You just stop yourself at a certain moment and say, yeah, I'm satisfied with the outcome. I could see this, I could picture this position in my mind's eye and believe I'm winning.
right,
Knight
because
a3.
rook c8, there is knight b1.
Or knight b5.
Knight b5 with the
Yeah.
tempo, yeah.
I mean, a draw is fine. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, hyperbole overplay it, but a win is what he
But when you
really
think
wants.
you are about to win and then it hits you like a cold shower.
Like
it's a draw.
no. Wow. Queen d6. What a save that would be. Let's take a pause on the open section and turn to our marquee matchup in the ladies. How is our tournament leaders? Remember that at the start of the tournament, it's required by the regulations of the FIDE that the players from the same country play one another early and not in the later rounds. We don't want to have any suggestion of unfairness. And that's why we're seeing Tan and Lee play in this round. Tan leading the tournament. How's she doing,
She
Nazi?
looks a little bit worse,
What?
I believe.
Really?
She's in quite a bit of trouble, if I may interrupt.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I did see the repetition earlier. So at the start of the play, they played a London, they got to this position, and we saw a repetition, and then it was White who called off the repetition with f4. What happened after f4?
Black played rook b8,
Rook b8.
a3, a5, and bishop h4. And now black can just take the pawn on h5 because of the tactic queen h4 at the end.
Whoa, so the move bishop h4
I
just
think
actually
gives up
just
the pawn.
blundered the pawn. So in this position, black is not threatening to capture the pawn. Like I could play a move like rook b1, you can't capture the pawn because I just take it. But with the bishop on h4, I made this tactic available. Oops. So let's see what she has in mind. It had to be takes,
Takes with the
right?
queen.
And again, queen h4 is a little bit embarrassing, so it has to be rook g5, what
Or
she
rook
calculated.
h1 maybe?
Okay, I'll go with
That's
that
also
too.
possible.
Rook h1 maybe, that covers and provokes g6.
G6 only move.
And now how does the line continue? I take,
Bishop h5.
you take.
Take with the pawn, rook h5, and maybe I just go king d7.
And at the end of the line, essentially you're
White's
saying
king
to
is
me,
worse.
yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I probably play queen, but how bad or good is it, Nasi? Is it
We should ask Miro
okay?
what engine says, but looking at it, b4 is coming. White's king looks much worse.
True. Well, your king is hanging out in the center. Maybe my king has to hang out in the center. Whose king is worse, more vulnerable, Miro?
Well, bishop h4 was imprecise move, and indeed the line you've shown was all correct, I guess.
Right.
So, indeed, you can take on h5 abusing this little double attack. Yeah, if white captures back, there is queen on queen h4, and then all the lines that guys had in the studio, and indeed, it's stronger to play king d7 before you're exchanging.
Keep that
Gotta keep
tension.
the rook on b8, but if white wants to trade, then of course, yeah, the h file is good. Point 5 in black's favor, so half a pawn. And just to, to fully clarify what I meant by saying Tanya is in trouble, she's down to less than 10 minutes. Which is also very, very important factor. 23 moves, so quite a few more moves, 17 more moves for her to play. She's down to less than 10 minutes in a position where, she might not be all that much worse, but there is no clear plan. There is no answer what white wants, right? I mean, if you'd be kind of castled opposite sides and you push the pawns against opponent's king, at least you know what you're doing.
Right.
Right here, as we are not sure ourselves, like, shall we try to castle long, shall we keep the king in a center, and so on and so on. Decisions, and you've got less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
So that's troublesome.
Thank you for that, Miro. Why is this game so important to our tournament standings? Well, let's have a look, and I'll tell you right now, that game between number 1 and number 3.
Yes, these players are currently in the first and third place, so it can be a very decisive game for the tournament.
Absolutely, and in a position where 10 is actually a little bit worse with the white pieces. That could seriously stir up the pot. Speaking of important games, another one that's huge is Kate versus Aleksandra. And let's jump to that for just a moment, because again, just looking at those tournament standings, we see that
Aleksandra's in clear second and Kateryna's in third. So
right, and Kate with the white pieces. Let's just see how we got here. Oh, all the rooks came off. Okay, so we've got a square on f5. Rather, we had a square on f5. Everything got traded, and well,
black squares are weak, so the white's bishop is great, but that knight on e5 is just as good.
Tremendous, just tremendous. I mean, it's a very, very solid blockade, and when we get knight to d7 and c7, c6, I just don't see how white could reasonably play for an advantage. It seems to me that Aleksandra is defending the second place very well, and if Kate overdoes it, it could easily go wrong. What do you have for us, Miro, in the Jan versus Nijat game?
Nothing new, but just to confirm that all the moves that we were discussing in the lines were found.
Right.
And I've just discovered a couple of really silly but funny computer lines. Because apparently you can take on c3 with the rook. And yeah, bishop takes, there is the X-ray on g7, so you'll resign.
Right. Take on b4. On b5,
black
c4.
captures on c4. Now, white rook on c3 is pinned. Right. So
no rook takes.
You go rook c2.
Right.
And black goes c3.
Obviously.
Rook takes
And then, like you can take with the bishop, but that's not the point, right? We all know, like, the moment bishops disappear, it's a draw.
Right.
So we take one more time with the rook. And then, like, computer does strange stuff, but its third line is queen to d6. And this is also something we've seen. Now the rook is hanging, the queen is hanging. Right, and we can exchange, and it will be a draw. And then there is queen g7, a spectacular sacrifice, and rook g3 double check, but regrettably it only leads to a draw. King here, rook g7, king h8, and there is like too many things for black to interpose. So the only way to make a draw would be to take on f7 and deliver this kind of perpetual f7, g7.
Right.
So you can finish the game in a, in a really nice fashion,
way,
but the result will always be a draw, it seems.
I remember this kind of perpetual from a long line of the Grunfeld, where it ends up with a back
Absolutely,
and forth,
yeah. And at some point it got very fashionable, and we've seen quite a few of those.
Of those indeed. Thank you, Mira, for that. Just going around the horn there with the ladies. I'm coming back to the ladies as, again, we have another all-Indian derby in this particular case. Vaishali versus Humpy. And this we had seen, we were in studio when we were analyzing this one together. Vaishali just,
already.
yeah, she just never got out of the opening, did Vaishali. When we came in, we were investigating how rare a bird was this move, bishop f4, and I really didn't like the way Black answered this. Grunfeld players, they don't even hesitate. Grunfeld players play the move c7, c5. Some do hesitate, knight a6, and then
is later.
Later, right. Some do preface the move c5 with knight a6 followed by c5, but Grunfeld players, the spirit of the Grunfeld is not c7, c6, and then something really bad happened right about here.
The rook got trapped on f8.
Precisely. The rook got trapped on f8, and that was just a whole exchange, which brings us quickly to the current position, and wow, I mean, Humpy's just...
Only compensation would be the knight on d4, but it's not enough for the exchange.
No, exactly. So we would expect Humpy to win this one. Let's go to, wow.
Salimova against Muzychuk.
And
it looks like
I had to pause because there's like, where is everybody? What's going on?
A lot of trades have happened. Objectively should be equal, but white definitely has more pleasant position. We have space advantage. Maybe we can play f4 and...
Yeah, I like these active pieces too. I like your f4, e5, gaining some more time, bringing your king into the center. It does look like Anna is on the back foot.
It's
she's
one of
suffering,
those positions where Black has to just very patiently and passively defend for a long time.
Move rook d8, very forcing move, asking the knight, where do you want to go? If the knight is forced to go back to a6,
I think that's the only move.
Is it?
Yeah.
Rook d8 fails.
That gives up a7 pawn, at least.
Does it? That was a... I was wondering if I was
you
trapping you or I may be tricking myself. I mean, it's highly likely I'm tricking myself, don't get me wrong. But rook d8, if I have to go to knight to c8, I start to feel a little bit more comfy here. I mean, I don't know exactly how I'm going to increase my advantage, but feel that it's an advantage. Definitely for both of these ladies, maybe Anna even more so, they really need a victory to help their campaigns. Back to our tournament leader, and you've got Tans. She didn't take on h5.
Yeah, but
intriguing.
The move not Tang, but her opponent, Lei Tingjie, the move Lei Tingjie played king f8 is arguably even better under the circumstances. So it still keeps the position in Black's favor, according to the machine. It's still same kind of half a pawn in Black's favor. Plus it keeps all the pieces on the board.
True.
With Tan currently having 5 minutes. So king f8, bishop g3, bishop d6, and back to h4. So the only thing Lei Tingjie needs is to find courage not to reveal. And there are moves. There is b4 in Black's favor. There is a move computer loves, knight to e7 to f5.
I love that.
Not bothered at all about doubling those pawns because it will be, beautiful structure. Black's going to go f5 and then bring the knight, and that just looks awesome. By the way, this is huge advantage for Black. So knight e7 looks very, very promising.
Right. Talking about courage for just a moment, I must confess, from my side of the table, whenever I look across and I see I'm up 30 minutes on the clock, my courage goes way up. I just love it when my opponent is in time trouble. So finding the courage in this particular situation as Black to play the move knight e7 is really helped by the fact that I have so much time advantage. And I love that move, knight e7. I love that idea of just bringing that knight to the f5 square, where I'll be putting pressure on the e3 pawn. Our tournament leader is going to have to earn her challenger position, I would say, at this exact moment.
Right, and it's well, it's not yet. I say if she loses, it does not turn the standings upside down, but Lei Tingjie will catch up with her.
Yeah,
Goryachkina, in case of a draw, which is very likely in her game against Lagno, will be potentially could be a three-way tie, right?
Yeah. So if Tan were to lose to Lei, they would both have 5. Aleksandra, keeping her nice position, would have 5. That would be a 3-way. Kate would only have 4.5, and that was why the Salimova versus Muzychuk game is so important for those two players. They really, really need a win to kickstart the second half of their tournament. Again, I'm going to go back to our marquee matchup, which is the game between Hikaru and Fabi for a moment, because I just liked to share with the audience one little insight that we had. It was just about these parts where Hikaru did play the move rook e4, and we were suggesting that there might be a draw in the air like this. And that did not happen because Hikaru actually did play, he did play a3. And then after rook e8, I asked Miro what a suggestion might be for her. How could Hikaru improve his position? And I just like the computer suggestion of a4. He very, very carefully played a3, and then we were we're going to play a4. I understood the move a3, excuse me for my primitive, barbaric behavior, but I understand you play a3 when you have a bishop on c2, so you can go queen d3 and brilliantly checkmate the opponent when it's available. In this case, Hikaru did not do that. He played bishop d2, knight f6. Oh, no, this might be...
Yeah,
that's the actual game. So you are a prophet, Yasser. You suggested knight f6?
I thought that was our analysis from beforehand.
All played.
He did play knight f6. My goodness, I only get to say this like once a broadcast, but these guys are good. I didn't realize how good they were. And once again, let's just check how they do head-to-head, because let me tell you something. These two players, they could write a trilogy of their matchups.
This is just their classical games.
Right, it has nothing to do.
Rapid and Blitz will be over 100 for sure.
For sure. What is surprising is Fabi, of course, has a reputation as a classical player. Hikaru, much deserved reputation as a speed demon. Loves playing bullet and 3-minute. Hikaru has a lead in the classical matchups. Again, their candidate records at the bottom: 8 wins, 7 losses, 20 draws. Hikaru plays well in the candidates, not well enough. Fabi, on the other hand, has won a candidate tournament in the past. This is his 5th edition. He has 14 wins, 8 losses, 41 draws. Wow, that's a lot of games. Let's get caught up with the players, as after the move queen d2, we have queen g5 on the board, inviting a trade of queens. You know, I wouldn't be happy at all if I had to trade queens here, and especially...
I think Hikaru agreed with you.
Yeah,
rook e3.
He did. I was about to say, and especially, you know, sometimes we wrongfully dismiss double pawns. We dismiss double pawns as being weak and bad, and yes, it's true. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're really strong and powerful. In this particular case, this units of g5, g7, we're going to see the pawn going to f6. We're going to see the knight going to f4.
All of a sudden, the pawn on g5 makes the knight very good.
Bingo. It's a great outpost, and we're not trading queens, but if we're not trading queens, we're thinking about queen b4, but then black could be insistent and say, well, I want to trade queens, queen b5. So we saw instead, Hikaru has played the move rook e3. I don't know if knight swinging to e4 and c5 is on his agenda. My impression is black has got to be pleased with the outcome. How is Fabi doing?
Well, currently it's equal or close to equal, and computer suggests rook a to d8, highlighting there. You've moved the rook from e4, so now your d4 is somewhat weak.
Okay.
In case of knight e4, which is very tempting, queen to h4. So the queen is not leaving the king side that easily. And then, yeah, the pawn is targeted. If the knight's moved, the d4 pawn will fall. There was a brief moment, which is, once again, I would argue this is typical computer chess, because sometimes we humans miss a strong move. We see it from the computer and immediately say, aha, yeah, I understand what it means, yeah. Here, queen c3, computer claims to be like almost half a pawn better for white.
Wow.
Which you wouldn't see much of a difference. Same strong square on d5, same setup pretty much. But it turns out it's not that easy for black to continue because, for instance, bishop d5, and this was the first thing I thought very tempting, install the bishop, trade the rooks, rook g4,
hello,
plus 1.2. So you drive the queen away and then you just take on g6. If queen goes to f6, you have more jumps, like knight h5. Then I tried knight to e7 to bring the knight here. Also not great, because rook e1, and then after knight d5, remember, Yasser, you were talking about this battery?
Yes.
This is where it materializes. So the battery here, queen h7 would be a threat, and such a threat that black has to react to it, and pretty much any move, like say knight f6, rook e5 is terribly unpleasant.
Knight
So
h5.
queen is ideal on g5, but whenever it starts getting kicked around, it pretty much never stops. So this is also very dangerous. Overall, it's not that easy to find a move after queen c3, which I find surprising as the human player, right? So, well, bishop d7 apparently is the strongest, and then white could bring the other rook to e1. You don't want to trade yourself because the knight joins on e4 with the tempo. White has some bishop b3 ideas somewhere. So white is absolutely safe and pushes for a slight advantage. So that's difference with our position in the game, where it is equal and it's black who is trying to target d4.
Nice. Nazi, I gotta ask you a question about the current position between Hikaru and Fabli. So rook e3, I would suggest black is doing great, like terrific. I just, you know, I get my cap on and I go, let's go whole hog, if you will. I want to stop the move knight g3 to e4.
So you want to play knight f4?
Yes. I want to play knight f4, eyeing the pawn on g2, potentially menacing bishop h3.
Also stopping me from playing rook e5 because of knight h3.
Yes, and that's the most salient, is this idea that suddenly the rook is in a pin. You cannot move because, whoops, knight takes h3 check is embarrassing. Knight f4, what do you think of them apples?
Let's say I just play rook a to e1.
Right, rook a e1. And for me, it would be incredibly desirable to play the move bishop to d5. I have an issue. The issue is I lose my... Yeah, so I'm going to move my rook. And again, I'm not saying that bishop h3 and rook takes d4 or any of those things are on tap. I'm just saying that these are the ideas that I'm having with the vulnerable king. Is it vulnerable?
This is slightly awkward for white because I'm looking at a couple of moves like queen c3, you have knight d5. On every move, there is some kind of fork or a tactic.
Yes, I get you. Queen b4, this is the same fork. Again, the knight just can't move.
Because knight h3 is hanging, knight can't move. Yeah, white has to be a little bit careful.
Right, but okay, maybe the whole problem is your king is just misplaced. And now maybe
you can play c5. Oh, right. That's
now
smart.
that was the tricky. Now maybe my pieces can get kicked around. Miro said something, and I found that really on point. The queen on g5 is great until it gets kicked around. If you imagine this position and white gets to play rook e5, suddenly the knight on f4 is hanging, and then it's sort of like, hey, wait a minute, where did my advantage go? even though it's what we might call a quiet position, there's a lot of underground tension going on
Absolutely.
in this game, Miro.
It's a lot of potential, and I'm glad you've mentioned knight f4. And I hope, they won't play a couple of moves quickly so that we can we get to speculate about this one. Yeah. As you, Yasser, mentioned, or rather confirmed in my words, that queen deserves to be kicked around, and that's exactly what white has to do. H4 immediately, because this battery is too strong. And I think in your analysis, I don't know if you didn't want it or just missed it, but knight d5 was always available. You trade the queens, and the only side that can be better is black. Okay. Now, we go h4.
h4.
Now, queen h4, rook e4, pin, g5, and rook a to e1. Computer claims white is much better. Okay. And the more it thinks, it's almost a pawn up being a pawn down. So it means very strong attack.
Gotcha.
Is it because just black queen is stuck?
Yeah,
on
the
h4?
queen's stuck, the king's weak, right? So, well, the next move, by the way, the funny next move it does, the bishop to d1 aims at knight f5.
Trapping the
But that's only a part of the story, because after h4, you can do other things. You can go back to d8, which in hindsight might be the best move, and then rook e5, you go back to g6 with the knight, but that's not something we are interested in. What we are interested in is queen to d5. And then white goes rook e4, and then black says, wait, but you've blundered the pawn on g2, because if you take, there will be pins. Right? White says, yeah, but your knight on g2 is not threatening much, and goes either queen d3 or what's even stronger, queen c3. Queen c3, and I'm amazed, Yasser, because this position, if we let two machines playing, they will be doing things. Bishop h3, the knight's not hanging. I was not interested to take your knight at first place. King h2, I'm more keen to take the bishop. Knight goes back, because now the rook is pinned. There will be queen g2 checkmate. Rook to g1. And I don't know, we can go on and on, but at the end, white is better. I don't know how realistic it is to find all that over the board. But, but just imagine, out of this quiet position, you need like a couple of moves, and everything explodes.
But I think knight f4 would be a very risky move for Fabi, because he has 14 minutes left for next 15 moves.
Commentator's curse. Guess what?
Knight f4 was just played, so let's see if Naka finds this one.
But now, Hikaru, with 35 minutes on his clock, suddenly that courage factor got, because Fabi played that move with how many minutes on his clock?
So he has less than 14 minutes left for next 15 moves. So if Hikaru finds h4, it's going to be very tough to figure out all of those lines with such little time on the clock.
Wow, we're going to keep an eye on this one as we reach that point in our broadcast where we like to just take a break and check in on our friends at Q Boutique and see what they have for us. Well, we are happy to present the FIDE Clash for the Crown t-shirt. Our latest exhibit at the World Chess Hall of Fame is going on now. It's made of 100% cotton. This shirt celebrates the 100 years of the FIDE and the exhibition, The Clash for the Crown, the World Chess Hall of Fame. It's available for you at qboutiquestl.com, and the candidates always attracts great players from around the world, as Anastasia caught up with Aleksandra Goryachkina. Have a look. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Women world champion Aleksandra Goryachkina joined us today. Aleksandra, thank you so much for coming. Tell us a little bit about this candidates tournament and what are you doing here?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm not playing.
This time not?
Yeah, no, I'm not playing this time, and I cannot say that I'm very disappointed. I've had this experience. It's of course a very tough tournament, and you need to prepare for at least half a year before that, so kind of relieved a little bit. Here I'm simply as a chess tourist. I enjoy the sunny days and great games, and
Yeah, we have also really big fights in the playing venue. And who do you think look now in a good shape at the moment in open section and women's section?
You know, I've seen some interesting statistics about the fact that from 2013 candidates till the last one, the players who were in the lead after 5 rounds, they won the tournament.
Yes.
So now I think Nepomniachtchi and Gukesh are in
Yes,
the
they're
lead, so
sharing.
one of them should win, according to the statistics. You know, statistics never lies. So we'll see if it's true or not. And as for the women's tournament, I mean, here it's even more difficult for me to predict anything. I mean, I've tried to make a recap with my predictions before the tournament started. And actually, I named 5 favorites according to my understanding. And 3 of them are now sharing the last place. Yeah.
So far, not so good, but,
No.
but
Well,
it's really hard to predict
yeah,
this
of
event,
course.
right? Everybody is so strong. And Aleksandra, I know that you are coming back to St. Louis. I know that you were invited to the Cairns Cup. So are you looking forward?
Oh, definitely, definitely. The highlight of my year. I mean, I haven't played a single classical over-the-board game so far in 2024. So actually, well, no, the Cairns Cup won't be my first official classical over-the-board game because I think I will play a few more games before that. But nevertheless, I was so delighted as usual to get the invitation, and I already booked tickets and looking forward very much to coming back because, well, it's a great place.
You won the tournament before also, right?
No.
You were second or what?
Yeah, I was, I think, second and third. But okay, it's not always only about the results. It's about the conditions, the atmosphere, and I'm just very happy to be invited again.
Thank you, Aleksandra, for joining us. All the best of luck in the Cairns Cup.
Thank you.
The stages are set, the players are primed, the best of the best are ready to face off in the 2024 Grand Chess Tour. The top players in the world prepare to battle across 4 countries for a $1.5 million prize fund. Everything starts in Warsaw with the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland. Then off to Bucharest for the Superbet Chess Classic Romania. The players then travel to Zagreb for the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia. The tour concludes with back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri, the chess capital of America, for the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinkfield Cup. 9 players will go in, but only 1 can be crowned champion. Who is prepared to make history? Get ready for the return of the Grand Chess Tour.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. championships, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today. The St. Louis Chess Club Scholastic Program brings the educational value of chess to kids in schools across the St. Louis area. Active in over 100 schools throughout the St. Louis city and county, the St. Louis Chess Club has been able to reach over 85,000 students in both in-school and after-school programs. We view chess as a valuable educational tool. Learn more about our scholastic programming by visiting stlouischessclub.org/education. In the world of collegiate chess, there is no team rising quite like the one at the University of Missouri. The team has brought home title after title, including the 2024 Pan American Intercollegiate Championship, the first time ever in school history. Guided by their head coach, Christian Carilla, there is no stopping the Tigers. Respect, responsibility, discovery, excellence. University of Missouri.
The World Chess Hall of Fame, located in the heart of St. Louis's historic Central West End. Want to know why chess has intrigued people around the world for nearly 1,500 years? Stop by and learn about the impact of chess from our 3 floors showcasing the art, culture, and history of the game. The World Chess Hall of Fame has something for everyone to enjoy. For more information on current exhibits, please visit worldchesshof.org. St. Louis, the chess capital of the United States. It also plays host to an award-winning shop dedicated to chess merchandise, all-occasion gifts, and plenty more. At Q Boutique, you can shop both in-store and online. From quirky greeting cards to luxury chess sets, there is something for everyone at Q Boutique. Enjoy a shopping experience like no other. Make sure to check out QBoutiqueSTL.com for a wide variety of gifts for everyone to enjoy.
At St. Louis University, chess and success go hand in hand. Founded in 2016, the St. Louis University chess team has risen to become recognized as one of the best in the nation, bringing home multiple titles, including the National Championship in 2022. With members from 9 countries and led by Grandmasters Miroshnichenko and Darius Fierks, the future is bright for the SLU chess team. Higher purpose, greater good. St. Louis University. The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States and is among the best in the world, thanks to co-founders Dr. Jeannie Cairns Sinkfield and Rex Sinkfield. The St. Louis Chess Club is a non-profit organization committed to promoting the game of chess locally and internationally. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area, promoting cognitive development, critical thinking, concentration, and analytical skills. The St. Louis Chess Club welcomes chess lovers of any age and skill level to come and enjoy the game of chess. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. Championships and the American Cup, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players, including the prestigious Sinkfield Cup, Cairns Cup, and many more. All tournaments can be streamed via our YouTube and Twitch channels that also include over 2,000 chess lectures for anyone to enjoy. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, merchandise discounts, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today.
Welcome back, everyone. We have some very exciting games going on in round 8. So let's take a look.
Well, first, just remind everybody of our current standings. Let's start with the Open and why the matches of today are so critical.
We have Jan Nepomniachtchi leading the tournament with 4.5 points, but only half point behind are 3 players, Fabiano, Caruana, Pragg, and Gukesh.
It's a very slim lead, especially when we consider that Fabi is playing Hikaru and Nepo is playing against Nijat, the 2 crucial games. And in the ladies tournament, the standings for them after 7 rounds, Leslie.
We also have a sole leader in the ladies, Zhongyi with 5 points, Goryachkina in the clear second, and sharing third, Lei Tingjie and Kateryna Lagno.
Once again, Tan and Lee, number 1 and number 3 are playing number 2, and number 4 are playing in round 8. Huge games, and let's just jump right into the marquee matchup in the Open that we have for our audience. Miro, we did see the move, knight f4.
And then h4 was played by Hikaru, and here, if you remember, I've mentioned that perhaps the strongest move would be just to go to d8 and accept you're slightly worse. Fabi was planning for queen d5, it turns out, so he did play it. Now, Naka's thinking he's got 25 minutes, Fabi is down to 13. And according to the machine, rook e4 is quite a strong move, after which black is in a bit of trouble. So I'll just mention that knight g6, kind of trying to keep things simple. White just goes rook a to e1. And apparently one of the ideas white has is f4 and f5. To kick this knight even further, so say in the line rook a to d8, computer insists on going f4, which isn't the first move you would consider, to be honest.
I saw f4 in a different position, not in this one, no.
I think it was a different game as well, yes.
Exactly.
I mean, having pawns on d4, f4, and h4?
Right?
Yeah.
It's not the first, and if we take the pawn, knight takes h4?
Yeah, that's f5, knight f5, knight f5. And you'll have to take with the queen, and after rook e6, what computer does, discovered attack on the queen, what computer does says, take this and take this. And like at first glance, you're very pessimistic about this one, but I'm thinking, could this be kind of a chance if the king is not getting checkmated and, say, black picks up the d4 pawn, which he has some potential to,
Right.
because the bishop is not very useful in this case, right? There might be some instances of so-called fortress,
Yeah.
right, where, say, the bishop on c2, the pawn on d4, and one of the rooks disappeared, and then black would install the rook on d5 and hold everything along the fourth
fifth
rank.
Yeah.
Well, it's a speculation, and obviously white is much better in this line. Right, and then the alternative was, and I suspect that's what Fabi is going for, he might consider rook e4 being possible because knight g2.
Right.
And then we are landing in this line
This
we've discussed.
crazy
yes.
line.
Like you cannot really take, because then f5 and black is just winning, right?
Right.
Winning the rook on a pin. But instead, yeah, computer does something immensely impressive. Queen c3, and I won't be able to tell what Queen c3 does, to be honest. But after that...
Bishop h3.
Yeah, bishop
king
h3 was the line,
h2.
and king to h2, and then knight to f4, and rook to g1. Yes, and it goes on, and still better for white. So, yeah, not much to add as of now, but all of a sudden the game turns super exciting.
And it flares anew. For those of you joining us late, at the top of the show, we weren't making predictions. We were more making historical comparisons. Who's going to be the challenger? That's what we all want to know. At the halftime, we have some stats to share, Nasi.
Of course, our tournament leader Nepomniachtchi has the best chance at the moment. His score is +2 and he's undefeated.
Absolutely.
Caruana and Gukesh also are standing at +1, and Prague as well. And it's extra impressive because Gukesh and Prague did lose one game, but
Right.
they came back with 2 wins. And
A
now,
piece, yeah.
now they still have very good chance.
What's interesting about the bottom three is Vidit, Nakamura and Prague started with losses in round 2. So our champion or challenger, if you will, has never come from a candidates where they had a minus score. So if Prague or Nakamura were to win this candidates, it would be historically unique.
And one more thing I want to add is that Fabiano Caruana is the only player who has played every candidate since 2016.
Right, consecutively. This
Yeah.
is his 5th consecutive.
Most experienced player.
Right. H4 on the board. Now, when Hikaru played the move H4, Naka had about, let me do this again. When Naka as white played the move H4, he had about 35 minutes on his clock. Fabi had 14 minutes, answered quickly, so he still has 13 minutes. He played Queen D5, and Naka literally has watched his time go from 35 down to 20. It was sort of like he wasn't ready to meet Queen D5, Miro, and that's surprising because that would have been one of my top choices as black.
Maybe he saw Queen D5 and calculated Rook E4 and the crazy lines that Miro showed us, but
Right.
then he noticed something else for black in that line.
Right.
So now he's checking if Rook E4 is still a good move.
You know, it's really funny because I would have calculated Rook E4, looked at Knight G2, stopped and said, you know, that's Yasser, that's ridiculous. You don't look at Knight takes G2. Nobody in their right mind is going to play Knight takes G2. They're going to play Knight G6. And for me, Miro, if you don't mind me jumping in, Knight G6 is terribly correct move. It's like sort of like, this is what you're supposed to do. You don't want to go down to in a defeat. You want to protect your position.
Right, yeah. So if we have this one on the board, yeah, like
Right.
Knight G6 and Knight F8 is known to be very, very solid position for this knight.
Exactly.
Knight on F8 guards the H7 square. Right, but if we recall, you know, yes, if we recall a little history of it, and then we had the knight on G6,
right.
and we went to F4 as black,
Yeah.
and this very often is very hard to admit, that I went to F4, whatever, I made a move, it was maybe not so good move, and now I have to return back.
The solace that I would take with that is to say, yes, but wasn't I brilliant? I provoked a weakness, H4, H5. Now,
Fair
on the
enough.
other hand, if I'm in Fabi's shoes right here, my opponent plays the move Rook E4, and You know, it crosses my mind that knight takes g2 is actually a reasonable move, and like maybe, but how much time, genuinely, how much time would you invest in trying to analyze the ramifications of knight takes g2, queen d3, right? Because that looks like a very natural move. You're kind of angling for rook takes e6 and queen h7.
I would need a lot of time, but it's Fabi we're talking about. So
yeah, he calculates as fast as anybody, as does Hikaru.
and we do see rook e4 on the board.
Rook e4, knight g7.
Is this
Yeah, that's
live?
live.
Okay.
The players suddenly realized that the clock was a factor. So after the move rook e4, almost
They blitzed out
instantly,
2 moves in a row.
no knight takes g2. No fun and games for you.
Right.
I take my move back.
Rook e1,
Knight-
knight f8. Yeah.
Knight g6.
rook e1.
Now rook e1, knight f8 came very quickly. Here, something to be said maybe for rook d8. In any case, knight f8 came really fast. 21 minutes versus, again, is that
11 minutes.
11. And how many moves? Let me see.
12 more moves to go.
Okay, so
But we have a breaking news in Gukesh's game. If we can switch real quick.
please. Okay, as I just refreshed, let's go to the Gukesh
Gukesh
game
looks completely winning. It's against Vidit.
at the top. Yes,
Yes,
here it is.
too.
Whoa, whoa,
He
whoa,
has
whoa,
this
whoa.
move Queen e1 right now that I think
Okay.
White has to just resign.
When we left it, we were at that moment where Black had all of the trumps on the A file. He has tripled on the A file. I mentioned that White had the half-open F file as well as the F5 square. So it seems like both players pursued their respective trumps. We got to a position here where C5,
And Black completely dominated on the queen side, and now it's
Queen
just game over.
E1. Ruh-roh,
We also
this
have
is-
rook e2 by Vidit.
this is really very, very, very bad news. And by the way, what a bounce back that would be for
After that
Gukesh.
loss against Firouzja, that's very impressive.
Yeah, I think for a lot of players, myself included, that loss to Alireza, which came so quickly, it was like there was a just, and in 15 minutes the turnaround was complete. And now, if he, Gukesh, were to win this game, amazing. How do they do against one another when they play against each other?
They've only had one classical game so far, and it was a draw.
Was that from this tournament, from the first half then? I mean, probably, right? Rook e2, and okay, it's very easy for us to say the material factor, but it's not about the material factor, it's about the king position.
Queen h1 now, right?
Queen, now this is the one I have trouble with. You've got a choice, g1 or h1.
My guess is both are completely winning.
Yeah, h1 I would want if I was going to follow it up with rook g1. g1 I would want if I was going to follow it up with knight h5, because then I would think that, well, my queen has more chances to come into the attack from g1. Let's pick one. Queen g1 check, king g3. Do your worst, Nazi.
Knight h5, let's try.
Well, that's pretty bad, I have to say. I mean, if I march fearlessly,
The other knight comes
The-
and
the-
g5 checkmate, right?
well, yeah, this one I can see from a mile afar. King f3, forget about that.
F1.
Rook f1, so I'm going to go king h4,
Only move.
and then here, and now I...
Threatening g5, how do we avoid that checkmate? Then
Without my
knight
lollipop, I
h6,
don't
knight-
feel very good. No,
There's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way.
So
Knight
that's
takes
just it?
g7.
Yeah,
Knight takes
knight
g7, but that's not the move we are discussing seriously.
No, knight takes g7 and knight takes h6 is not really. So that's it. It's that simple. Queen g1, and by the way, we do have queen g1, king g3 on the board. I suspect, because if it's that simple, that there's a lot of moves as well here. Could he be even thinking about the immediate g5? No, I suspect not. The immediate g5, I can take and maybe walk the plank. But knight h5, king h4, knight d7 to f6 looks like a handshake.
Yeah, white has to give up the piece, knight g7 or knight h6, but there's no hope.
Nope.
Because your king is still terrible on h6.
Yeah, right. I have a great... This one looks smashing. Vidit in losing. Let's jump back to our marquee matchup because the Hikaru game versus Fabi, so much at stake for these two players.
Black all of a sudden looks so passive. The queen and knight go into the last rank. Now white should be much better.
Well, I think Miro just said it best way back here. When you play the move h4, maybe we should just go back to d8, and maybe we should just go back to g6. There was a couple of bumps along the road there, but guess what? We did, in fact, go all the way back to the starting positions. Now, having said that, the black's position doesn't break down very easily. I mean, he really has a lot of defensive resources. It's not like you just go bang, bang, bang.
And
here.
actually, I see a move on the board, h5 by Hikaru.
That's a very reasonable move. When you start to think that queen d3, you've absolutely put the stop to knight g6. Queen h5, I do like.
Let's say black plays queen d7 or queen b6 with the idea to bring the rook to d8.
Which
is next?
rook, by the way? Because I'm thinking, I'm thinking that this is actually a kind of a nasty pin. Maybe I want to get out of it, but you're thinking that you actually want to just develop the rook on
It depends
d8.
on white's next move.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay, so let me choose a move. I'll go knight f5.
Knight 5.
By the way, we do have breaking news as Kate and Aleksandra, very important game between those two tournament leaders. They're right up there on the top. They've made a draw. Now, my idea, and sorry for telegraphing my brutality, but knight takes h6, queen takes h6, rook g5 on my agenda. You don't have time. I think,
maybe it's too slow, this plan.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to jump. Miro, jump in on this one. After the move h5, it feels like Fabi's under pressure. How serious is it?
Well, he is under pressure to begin with. Yeah, computer interestingly doesn't like h5 all that much.
Really?
And suggests either rook 1 to e3, which I'm struggling to comprehend yet, or queen f4, which is much more understandable. You know, just bring the queen into the zone.
The zone, yeah.
Yeah, and then something's going to happen. We'll jump on f5 with the knight and possibly sacrifice something.
Right.
Yeah, and perhaps black has to bail out with this one, where white trades and gives rook e3, and I'm not convinced how much better for white that is. Computer insists on this being almost +2 pawns for white.
Wow.
So apparently it's not, it's not the structure which bothers computer, but some jumps like knight h5, possibly rook g3, and so on.
Gotcha.
Anyway, this would have been much better for white. After h5, Robot's suggestion is to go queen b6. Okay. And this is, I think, something you guys were looking at.
Knight f5.
And after knight f5, it goes here.
Which we didn't look at.
So rook takes, rook takes, and queen to b2. And the question is, how real black's compensation for the exchange? Because I turn to not believe it, to be honest.
So we go queen f4. Or what do we do?
Rook e2 is possible.
Just goes back to e2, because otherwise queen f4, apparently there is nothing. Yeah, it takes, and after queen d6, goes king h7.
Could I do queen d1 and just perpetual?
Yes.
Queen d1, yeah, you also could.
Yeah, sorry. So I have to go rook e2 in that.
But we do have a move. Fabi played bishop d7.
Fabi played bishop d7, and this computer has as a huge mistake, because now after exchanging on e8, which, well, relatively easy move to make, knight f5. And then you install this knight on f5, and now if black doesn't take care of it, then this knight will be sacrificed on h6 with a decisive effect. So takes here, takes here, and despite white currently not even threatening something, the knight from f8 protects, but rook to e3 and then rook to g3, you can't do much.
Wow.
After knight f5, can black just play queen f6? Let's say I defend.
Yep, so
the pawn on
takes,
h6.
takes, knight f5, queen f6 is what you have to do, and then queen to b4, targeting this, but also after this check, having some ideas around the f8 knight being unprotected. And then, yeah, what computer does is this.
This looks terrifying for
Then
black.
queen takes b7,
Definitely.
it's already a pawn up.
And compensation. Yeah, white's the one enjoying
The
attack.
extra pawn and the compensation, as we would say.
Right,
Yep.
right.
And the clock also.
Fabi's
Fabi
in
has
huge
less time.
trouble. Fabi's in
Yeah,
huge trouble.
just in that position where you guys were analyzing on my board for just a moment, the idea here, I love that X-ray of the queen on being on b4. So something like rook b8, I would hit you with a check, and after you move your king, I don't move my knight to c6, allowing your bishop to get out of the way. Instead, I go knight d5, and that is
So
really
pretty.
Oh no! I mean, I'm hitting the queen, but more importantly, I'm threatening mate in one move. So Fabi in deep trouble. And tell me again about the clocks between these two players.
Hikaru has 12.5 minutes, and Fabi's down to 8 minutes.
And our current position, once again, is with rooks on the board. And for Hikaru, he's very, very aware of that clock situation, very much so. The other thing that I was just trying to glom onto for a moment, I love this trade of rooks for white. I think the bishop on e8 is terribly misplaced vis-a-vis the e6 square. And this bishop on c2, coming to b3 with the idea of queen f4, putting pressure on the f7 pawn, also got my attention. He has played rook takes e8, bishop takes e8. What move?
I think that's the only downside of this position. White has too many good options. He made the best moves. He took on e8 and now played knight f5.
Knight f5.
We have queen f6 also on the board, and if he finds queen b4,
which is not a difficult
he already
move.
played it.
I mean, Hikaru.
He calculates so fast.
Oh, it's just amazing. Well, I've had many dinners with Hikaru, but I once had the unfortunate dinner where there was a world championship match going on, and it was Topalov, Vichy, and Hikaru were at the same dinner. And they were both, all of them were calculating in their minds. I could hardly get in a bite as each one was finding some new approach to winning the position. Queen b4, Miro, how bad is it?
Well, bishop
engine?
d7, the one that we
Yes.
were looking at, is not desperate yet. Queen takes b7, but
That's
yeah,
a pawn.
I'm saying not desperate yet, as in, like, you do not resign. But
No.
it's really bad.
It's really
Queen
bad.
b7, the best thing you can do is to take on f5, and then bishop f5 already is a pawn up for white because the rook is hanging, but computer takes the rook and says it's even better.
I like
Takes
it.
the
They
rook,
exchange?
bishop c2, rook e8. Oops, no, not to f1, but to e8.
But that is the eternal pin, right?
Queen c6, queen d6, yeah, and then some moves. Like rook c8 wants to take on c6. I'm not convinced, to be honest. Like in a practical game,
Especially from afar. This,
I'm almost sure in a practical game you just see that you can take on f5 with the bishop,
stop.
which is an extra pawn, and you're, feasting on black's queenside pawns,
Right.
and you stop right there.
Yeah, bishop takes f5, rook d8. If we continue this line for just a moment, I mean, once again,
Bishop e4, and you're guaranteed to be at very least a pawn up in a
bishop
comfortable position.
e4, comfy.
Queen d4, bishop f3. That's what computer does. So
Queen
first,
Why can't
queen
we
takes
take-
d4, yeah.
Why can't we take on c6?
Well, you can. It's just that it prefers to go bishop f3 to perhaps to guard h5, and then the pawns are not running
Right,
away.
right.
Right, the pawns are not running
And we can maybe
Wow.
take a6, which will be better for us.
Yep.
And again, from the current position, we just have seen the move queen b4, queen f6.
b5, it's
Fabi.
a terrible blunder by Fabi, so knight e7.
we have rejected Bishop D7. We were thinking
And
was
97 on
forced,
the board.
and instantly Knight
Game is
D7.
about to end.
I was about to say, remember that
Did he blunder Knight D5?
I'm sure he did, because
We have
King
it.
H8, Knight D5. Remember we were talking about
Wait,
this.
is there C5 here? C5, Queen C5, Knight D7? No, I'm still losing a piece on at the end on E8.
Because of E8.
Absolutely, yeah.
For somebody, look at you calculating.
the only
C5,
moves.
Queen takes C5, Knight D7. Did I avoid the loss of a piece? No, because Nazi recognized that E8, oops, is hanging.
Take with Rook or Knight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Game over.
Yeah,
Game
it
over,
seems so.
Miro. Knight D5.
Seems so.
It seems like this has been a blunt. And for Fabi, what a blow.
Fabi's back to 50%.
And for Hikaru.
For Hikaru,
Plus
he
one?
in fact climbs on +1, so
They
he switches places with Fabi. And it's what the
Wow.
situation, Yasser. If we assume Gukesh wins, Naka won, Jan, if he doesn't win his drawish position, that means he's caught up with Gukesh. Naka half a point away, and Prague is still playing.
Yes.
So everything
Wow.
is.
So this is our current position, and
By the way, we did have a result in Gukesh's game. He already won his game.
he has won. One of the toughest things in chess is to come back from a severe loss, and I mean it was really a severe turnaround in his game with Alireza. So I mean it's like double congratulations. It's a very big result
Won
for
very
Gukesh.
convincingly with the black pieces.
Very nice. This is our marquee matchup, and this last move, Knight D5, it's a piece of art. That move, it puts the knight on pre to the.
And coming into today, we're thinking, oh, this is such a dull equal game.
Right.
And it turned out to be the most exciting one.
Well, there was so much underneath the surface that was bubbling away, and you know, hindsight being 2020, it was probably the move Knight G6 to F4 that was too ambitious for that particular moment. Like right about these parts, the position's probably fairly balanced after some move like Rook A D8. This move Knight F4 ran into a cold shower, and Hikaru Nakamura has won, beating his countryman, knocking Fabi out of second place with this move Knight D5. And wow, well, let's jump to our tournament leader, Nepo. Because again, Nepo came into today's contest with a clear first. He's playing against the lowest rated seed in the tournament with the white pieces. How are they doing? And
Well, I'd say Nepo almost managed to squeeze the maximum out of what has happened, because remember this line, and we always had bishops exchanging, which would lead to like a dead draw. Well, he avoided it somehow, and this is the current position after move 38. So at the very least, the black still has this weakness on a5 that he cannot get rid of. Bishop b6, yeah, well, it's still equal, we have to understand, right? But the game still goes on. And with
equal with my equality.
Yeah.
It's definitely Nepo who has the push.
Right, and I would say it's one of those positions from black's perspective that you can hold and probably expect it to hold. It's nothing bad, but you can't really force draw unless you get a5, a4 in.
Right.
You'll have to sit there for, I don't know, 20 moves, 30 moves, 40 moves, and defend your slightly worse position. So Jan is not without a chance yet.
And Jan, any rook trades, it's immediately dead because of that dark square pawn on a5. Any rook trades, you play rook e8 and I play rook e4.
I'd say we could highlight it. Yeah, it won't happen just to show. Yeah, and this pawn is terrible, and white king is super active. Also, g7 needs protection. Black can't even run with the king because g7 is hanging. All of a sudden, it turns into a winning position.
This is the only game left because Prague Firouzja also drew their game.
All right. And let's take a break from our analysis to turn to Toronto, where Anastasia caught up with Hikaru for this interview.
Hikaru Nakamura, Hikaru, you just won the game against Fabiano. How important is this victory for you?
Well, I mean, it's nice to get a win. It certainly at least gives me a chance to maybe contend for first place, what I would say. I think if I won today, it's pretty unlikely considering the colors I have in the left. You know, I felt like I missed chance against Nepo the other day. To expect the win is pretty big in terms of the standings, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And the game itself, it was very interesting. You got this isolated pawn position. Do you prefer to play those positions with the isolated pawn, or it doesn't matter?
Well, but I mean, the thing is, first of all, I've played Fabiano a million times, and I've also seen him at many tournaments, so I have a pretty good idea of how he likes to play. And I mean, I think, lulled him into this false sense. Like, somewhere around here, the game is just equal. He should go bishop e6, make a draw, and whatever, that's life. But when he played knight to f6, yeah, and then he went for this. Like, I already knew here that after takes and knight d5, he was trying to keep the game going. But I think objectively, it's easier to play for white. I mean, like, I don't want to speak negatively about Fabiano per se, but I felt like he was treating this game or this position like keep the game going. But in return, he's giving me the two bishops, and I mean, against a 2600, I think this is a very good decision in an open. Like in the Grand Swiss or something, I would be a big fan of this decision by Fabiano. But in the candidates here, where I mean he has a good score, to go for something where I think there's very little risk for white and only risk for black, I think is kind of silly. And it was all kind of, I think, okay for him.
So you became a little bit optimistic here, yes, at this moment when you got this position.
I just figure I have two bishops. I can never be. I mean, I can never be worse because also his pawn's on a6. If the pawn's on a7, he can maybe go b6 also. But with the pawn structure, I mean, two bishops pawn structure, no big weakness on d4. I don't see how I can be much worse.
Okay.
And also my play, I think, is very simple. Once I'm able to get to this position with queen d2, where I bring the rooks in, once we get the middle game out of the way, kind of, it's still okay for black, but it's tricky. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe bishop d5 was a move that I considered, but I thought there was knight h5 or even rook g4. And I mean, I don't know how easy it is to play for black here. But he still, I think, was too optimistic. So when he went queen g5 and then I played rook e3, this is when Fabiano started to think. And I think it's not like this isn't okay still for black, but it's too late. It's like he thought, I don't know if he missed rook e3 or he missed the knight of 4 h4. But the point is, at this point, he's down to 30 minutes. I have like 35 minutes, and he has to spend 20 minutes. So then he gets in time pressure because if you get shocked at such a moment in the game, it's very unpleasant for the system. Because like you want to move quickly, you think you've calculated, and then you have to spend the time. You get low, and
yeah, he was already like 13 minutes against like 30.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like after I got h4, it's starting to get very tricky.
What happens if he takes rook e4, right?
Yeah, if he takes rook e1, I mean, of course this is what, rook d8? Rook 8 or e8?
Like you have to move the rook because knight 5 is the threat, right?
Yeah, but I thought even this, and I don't know how black is. Okay. The bar is going up now. Okay,
this is good. No, but it looks optically queen. What is this? Something is wrong here.
Yeah, and so like then he played e5 quickly, but of course everything kind of falls apart very quickly. I mean, all my moves are too easy here, of course. I go rook e5 and then h5.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a feeling this rook e5, h5 wasn't right during the game. The problem is I'm also getting low on time. So like, I'm kind of under 20 minutes here, and it's like, do I move quickly or do I move slowly? Try to find the perfect move, and figure if I don't see an obvious way to win the game, I should just play simple chess. And h5 at least creates a weakness on the king side. And then he played, what did he play here?
But didn't see the end?
Yeah, he plays bishop d7, which of course is a blunder. But I mean, also the problem for Fabiano is he has 10 minutes here. Like he can spend 6 minutes, maybe find the best move, but then he's going to have like nine moves in like 4 minutes, and it's going to be very tough. Or you try to move quickly and play. And he tried to move quickly with this move, and then of course after takes, knight f5, I mean, he plays his queen f6, check, and then, no, sorry, I didn't do that. I played queen b4 first, because of course otherwise he would see the tactic. I played this first, here, and then he blundered this beautiful tactic with knight d5 at the end.
And knight is hanging,
yeah,
checkmate.
And now it's just game over as the knight's hanging, so.
Because we didn't see the end. Okay, knight d5, it's a very beautiful move. Should be happy with the result, but in general, I paid attention that you have quite a good mood before the game. You were chatting with the honorary guest today. I think you know him from before, yes, Michael Hayat?
Well, I mean, most things that I'm interested in, and anybody who's actually worthwhile in the world is always very interesting to talk to. So, yeah, I mean, I've been in a good mood. I mean, pretty much the whole side, outside of round 2, but in general, I feel great, and I'm enjoying it. It's been fun.
Yeah, and the last question today, Garry Kasparov has birthday, and I mean, can you say what impact he had on your career, on your chess?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Gary's had a major impact. First of all, as a little kid, going to the match when he played Anand. I mean, the famous Game 10 where he played this knight g5 sack, you know, that World Trade Center game. I mean, from that to watching him play in Vaikonze and, you know, Linares and everywhere else, as a little kid, he was someone that I aspired to be like. So he's done a lot for the game of chess. I've been a little bit fortunate because I worked with him briefly in 2011. Yeah. And then also, I mean, I've had a chance to play him in some of the St. Louis events, which has been really, really nice. I mean, and even if he's not at his prime, I mean, he's still Gary. He's one of the greatest ever. So it's just, it's been an honor to at least, you know, to get to know him and to have learned something from him over time.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Hikaru. All the best in the next rounds. And we're going back to Nazi, Yasser, and Miro.
Thank you, Anastasia. And with these results, our standings have certainly been shaken up. Nasi, do the honors. What's going on?
Wow, everything has changed so much. So we have 3 results so far. Nepomniachtchi is still playing. But at the moment, Gukesh is in sole lead with 5 points.
Who would have seen that coming after that round 7 result, a terrifying loss? But it was Hikaru upsetting Fabiano and pushing his countrymen down. Jan and Nijat still at work. Jan hoping to win, perhaps overtake Gukesh, or at least draw and to get into tie. Our ladies' standings, and I know we have a result or two, just a single result, pardon me.
We have 1 result. Russian ladies Goryachkina and Lagno drew their game. So at the moment, Aleksandra and Zhongyi are sharing the 1st place, and Kateryna remains in 3rd.
Exactly. And Anastasia got a chance to catch up with Gukesh after his remarkable comeback win. Let's take a listen.
So, I mean, I don't know, this tournament is really crazy, ups and downs. Like, you are feeling very bad one day, the next day you create such a beauty on the chessboard. Like, how are you doing it? How do you feel?
I wouldn't say it was, this tournament for me was huge roller coaster so far. I mean, there is surely one game I lost to Alireza, but okay, that is just one game. I thought overall I'm playing good chess, and yeah, even after the loss I wasn't really so upset. I quickly recovered, and yeah, today I played a good game, so yeah, quite happy.
That's great. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and we're going back to Yasser, Miro, and Nazi.
Thank you, Anastasia. Short interview, but I have to say the finish of the game between Vidit and Gukesh was really, really sweet. Let's take a look. We had left it just around these parts, and we had been arguing, well, arguing is strong, considering Queen H1 check and or Queen G1 check, which is the better check and why? G1 was our decision, King G3, Knight H5. We got here in our analysis, and then after the move Knight takes H6, we kind of just gave it up. We said, well, G takes H6, thank you for coming, have a nice day. Gukesh, how do you like this move, Nasi? Queen H2.
Beautiful.
Okay, I am threatening checkmate in 1, Queen G3, but I have a defense.
Knight F5.
Knight F5. Now, what are you going to do? You got
Are you testing me?
Yeah, I know. We know the answer, but it's a beautiful move. Rook to G1, and after G4, aren't you lost? Don't you have to resign? Isn't your queen trapped? Isn't your knight hanging? None of the above. Rook takes F5.
And if rook takes H2?
Here it comes. Remember
Beautiful
when we said
checkmate.
G5 checkmate? I mean, that is just so pretty. He did not play. He played after rook takes F5, E takes F5, and Gukesh had the great pleasure of playing knight H7 check. I think this is where we gave it a rest after king takes H5, queen H3. So
Bravo.
just bravo. Beautiful brilliance here. And now let's just catch our breath and talk about for a moment Hikaru's road ahead, because he did what he had to do. And look, he's got some opportunity to make up some ground.
He started the second half of the tournament with a huge win against Fabiano Caruana.
Yes, he did.
And in the next 3 rounds, he has 2 whites against Vidit and Pragg.
And Vidit, with his loss today, is showing some vulnerability. Nijat, we know, is in the cellar. And Pragg, well, that's going to be a big test for sure. But Hikaru could make up potentially some ground, and at +1, a half a point behind, wow, his fortunes are suddenly looking up. Tell us more about the current endgame position between Jan and Nijat.
Well, not much to add to what we were discussing. Yes, Jan, of course, will be trying to play it on. However, I've tried kind of, looking here and there at some variation. Here is a potential one, like h4, h5 is something that you would do, normally trying to, to seize more space and especially kind of fix black pawns on dark squares. And computer was not giving this move, h5, so I thought, what I would do? I see h4, I'd play h5. And it turns out that it's a reasonable move and very likely leads to a draw. And the way to achieve a draw is interesting. You pretty much surrender the a5 pawn.
I take it.
Interesting. Yes, I mean, that's pretty much the only way to try. Yeah. And then, well, there is bishop f2, but there is also this check.
Okay.
Wait a second. No, I wasn't looking at the check. King e6 was a way to make a draw. Yeah, king to e6, attack the rook. Rook goes to b5, then
now
it's a check. King goes, say, to d3, and that's another check. And when you go far enough, then black can trade and go rook b8. And yeah, it's just an equal, believe it or not, but computer has it as an equal rook endgame. So some sort of rook b4. Target this, after g3 probably just goes g5, creates counterplay, and this extra pawn is not moving too fast. Black has his counterplay, and in general, I think that's possibly the better method of defending such positions, that you aim for a rook endgame where your pieces are active, instead of hanging for this pawn for dear life, all the time, kind of making your pieces more and more passive.
Activity versus defense. This current position after rook d8, can I do the creepy crawly king b2 to a3 to a4 action?
Yeah, you can try, like king b2.
Assume king e7?
Honestly, my problem with analyzing this, even with the help of the computer's never impressed. It always says, like, whatever you do, it's just equal, right?
So king a3.
King a3, right, and king to d7, and
rook c4.
Pushes the rook behind, and then goes h5.
And king a4. I have achieved my maximum.
And and we would think we are winning a pawn, and we probably do. Rook here, rook here. I mean, it's always finds the way to disturb white.
Okay.
Always find the way to disturb white. I wouldn't be so sure. Once again, I believe computer makes a draw as black against any human player and possibly against the computer. But I wouldn't like to be black in this position, personally. Like, every move I have to consider, what happens if he takes my pawn on e5? Am I fast enough with the counterplay on the king side? But this is not something that you necessarily enjoy as black.
By the way, king b2, creepy crawly move.
Right.
Yeah, no h4. Intriguing. And I just want to say that we finished the game of Gukesh. We didn't finish why Alireza made a quick, not a quick draw, but what happened in their game. When we left it, there was an imbalance on the queen side, and maybe at one point we actually even preferred, however slightly, it might be Alireza's position as black.
Everything just got traded too much, and they ended up in a knight endgame with just 3 pawns on the same side.
Okay, so he couldn't even get 4 versus 4.
4 versus 3.
Yes, exactly. And they did end up going into, as you were just about to say, an extremely balanced ending, and everything got swapped, and they were in a night ending and a draw.
Let's check out ladies leader Zhongyi.
Yes, huge game going on there. And
she was worse last time we checked, and it looks like she's in huge trouble.
And she's kept her disadvantage. We left it at this position, and we said Li only needed to summon up the courage to play for a win, not go for a repetition with the move knight e7. I confessed I really liked White's position, and that's what she did. Tan in trouble, and you had mentioned also, Miro, that the pawn on f5, f7, this construction with the knight on f6 is very good.
That knight made it all the way to e4 and became the most beautiful
a Thor.
knight.
Did you have, how do you say, a nickname for a knight that you really liked, like a great beast?
Just horsey.
Just a horsey.
Yeah.
A very strong horsey. Yeah, I always had this imagery of a Thor, a god of thunder. And if I can see that knight on e4, which is, wow, this is a god of thunder. Now, knight e4, queen g7, and wow, even though she's undefeated, let's give her credit. She's undefeated coming into this game. Her position is
Yeah, I think
foul.
this will be her first loss.
Yeah, let's take a look at the women's standings and why this game is so impactful.
Absolutely
Nasi.
crucial game because coming into this round, Zhongyi was the sole leader with 5 points.
Right.
And now if Lei wins, which it looks like she will join Tan and Goryachkina sharing the first place.
And Kate, a half a point out of that bubble of 3 co-leaders. I don't know how Muriel is doing. She is playing against Anna, needs a win to even keep, in the battle.
Having some chance,
but
right.
how bad is the current position, Miro? I'm looking at Queen G7 and I'm looking at Tan's position.
The leader's game.
Yes.
Let me tell you something, not using the computer.
Yes.
An interesting observation which might give you some idea. Tan is down to 4 minutes 40 seconds.
Okay.
And you know what? It's move 41 for her to play. So that means she made it to the time control. She's gotten this half an hour increment and she can't find a move for 25 minutes.
Right.
In my understanding, it's a bad position.
It's a bad position.
Well, 2.3, 2.4 in Black's favor.
Only. I would have even thought it was more than that.
It feels like -5.
Moves like King D1, Bishop F1.
You
don't want to.
Yeah.
You're going backwards.
Yeah.
And I can see Black going backwards as the plan, going King D8 to guard the bishop and goes Rook B8. And this would be too much for White to handle.
By the way, Bishop F1.
Bishop F1 was played. Yeah, here the evaluation kind of risen up in Black's favor with pretty much any move, Queen H8, F8, or H6. I think Queen H8 kind of
feels more geometric.
Absolutely. Right? So Queen F8 supports the 8th rank, Queen H6 supports the H file. So why don't we go Queen H8 multitasking?
Right. Just taking a visual of this position, I must say that one of the things I think about constantly in my games is the improvement of my pieces. If I'm dissatisfied with my piece, for example, I might say I'm white in this position. I'm dissatisfied with my king on e2. I might say to myself, okay, I should put it in a better place on a c2. I'm dissatisfied with my rook. Yes, I can put it on a better
In
place.
this position, you're dissatisfied with every single piece, right?
Correct. Including, most impressively, the bishop on f1. So I think to myself, where would I put my bishop?
Right, but may I?
Please jump in.
You're absolutely right about White struggling to find to improve any single piece. And I just made a move King D1 for White.
Right.
But then your understanding, Yasser, perfectly works for Black because the only kind of 2 pieces you're not happy with is the rook on c8, which is passive, and the bishop on c8, which is not targeting anything yet. So what you do, you get rid of the bishop. You go rook a8,
right,
and you win because rook c7, king to d6, rook's attacked, rook a1's threatening.
Right, winning the queen.
It's a very common pattern in chess, if you think of it, that the side who gets rid of a passive piece usually gets this, the momentum, the kinetic energy, if you like.
Right.
And for the few moves, and sometimes your position would be winning, but the moment you grab the material, your opponent all of a sudden gets a bit of initiative. And in this case, it's not a bit of initiative, it's just white has to resign. It's -9, it's almost like a queen up for black.
-9. I love that move, rook a8, which is why I liked queen h8 as well. The passive rook and that bishop on c7, I'm dreaming will go to a5, and if we could trade the rook on c8 for the rook on a7, what you just said hit it perfect. All of white's pieces on the first rank, and the knight on f3 also. I mean, if I want to talk about overkill, I might even consider it f6 just to keep this knight, but no, I don't need it. Completely winning, please.
Check in on the Humpy Vaishali game.
Let's do it.
Last time we checked it, Humpy was completely winning.
An extra exchange, as I remember.
We have to give some credit to Vaishali. She found some counterplay, and now she has almost equalized because of the pawns on the queen side.
Wow, and to what you were saying, I would just add that suddenly black's pieces all on dark squares. She's making a virtue out of necessity. She's had this dark square bishop for some time, but the combination of this bishop and this knight
and the pawns
tells me that Vaishali has really fought her way back, and I didn't see that coming. I thought this was going to be a ride in the country for Humpy. Not so, Miro. And where did it go? Where did she spoil her advantage?
Yeah, there've been quite a few inaccuracies. Like somewhere here, it's move 25 and white is an exchange up, and according to the machine, comfortably winning.
Right.
However, already here, there was a feeling that if you're imprecise, there is potential for black to get some sort of a counterplay.
Okay.
And yeah, until some point it was okay. So the queens were, where the queens were traded. Yeah, somewhere here. Do we like this queen's exchange? I'm not sure.
No.
I'm not sure. Even though computer says white's still winning, but...
Okay.
So,
but already I can see the outlines of something.
Absolutely, I'm tracking it back. Yeah, you see, somehow white was not really in time to say push f45, shut down the bishop, and then it would be completely winning. Okay, and then apparently move 32, computer has quite a big mistake. Had to play this, and I don't quite understand it, to be honest. Okay, so there is a trick. We go to c1, trying to trade.
Dislodge the knight.
Yeah, so knight e2, rook e2, we are happy. Knight is very strong here. Now b4 blunders the a6 pawn, so we are happy. And there must have been a trick, because I thought, yeah, white goes rook c1, black goes rook c8. But this allows white to take the d file.
Wow.
So that's a very intricate little move. Rook c1 in order to take the d file, which unavailable otherwise, right? And Humpy went, she's taken the care of d file with rook d2.
But in the wrong way.
Yeah, it's kind of in the wrong way. Rook c8. Bishop d1, rook c7, and this one, despite computer having it as better for white, it's clearly what we would call a compensation.
Yeah.
Right, so f7 is guarded with the rook, and you have like next 5-6 moves for black are very easy. You push the pawns, you go king g7. That's pretty much what happened. And now, in the current position, it almost feels like a bit sad for black to make a draw, because she can go b3, and after a b3, trade here, and, you know, the pawn gets to b2, and how do you win it, right?
Right.
And I suspect after b2, white will have to return the exchange.
Rook b6,
but what I'm saying, that if black finds a way to keep the game going, it's not impossible that black's going to win this one.
What a turnaround that would be. That would just be absolutely, absolutely amazing. As we're going to go on break, we'll leave you with this little promo. April music series. Attend this month's World Chess Hall of Fame music series. The concerts are really a lot of fun. On Wednesday, April 17th and Thursday, April 25th, the World Chess Hall of Fame will be hosting the music series. You can purchase tickets at worldchesshof.com. chess.org. And trust me when I say it's a very, very popular way of spending an enjoyable evening. As we go on break, here's an opportunity for you to meet the candidates. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Jan Nepomniachtchi, known to the world as Nepo, will be playing in his third consecutive candidates tournament. He won the last two, the only player to achieve this in the recent history. Those candidate wins sent him to 2 World Championship matches. In 2021, he lost against Magnus Carlsen, and last year he faced Chinese Grandmaster Ding Liren, the match he also lost on a tiebreak. Nepo is a super grandmaster, 2 times Russian champion, and consistently one of the highest rated players in the world.
Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa is a great story. At only 18 years of age, he has established himself as a remarkable Indian chess grandmaster. He was only 12 years old when he achieved the grandmaster title, becoming the second youngest grandmaster at the time. He qualified for this tournament by reaching the finals of the 2023 Chess World Cup, and notably beat world champion Ding Liren at the Tata Steel event. The story gets even better when you consider that his older sister, Vaishali, is now on the same stage here in Toronto, playing in the women's candidates. Prag is definitely a player to watch.
Fabiano Caruana, at 31 years old, is one of the strongest players in the world and is currently ranked number 2 in the world. He is a 3-time U.S. champion, winning the title for the first time in 2016. Fabi played his first candidates that same year, finishing second. In 2018, he won his second candidates tournament in Berlin, which sent him to the World Championship match against Magnus Carlsen. After 12 games and 12 draws, the match ended with a tie. However, Caruana lost to Carlsen in the tiebreakers. In 2023, Fabi has been on a tear, winning the 2023 Sinquefield Cup, the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, as well as the 2023 Grand Chess Tour with an amazing 46 out of 52 points, setting a record for the highest point total in the tour's history. If you're cheering for an American to win, you might want to pick the fabulous Fabi.
28-year-old Nijat Abasov is an Azerbaijani chess grandmaster. He became a grandmaster at the age of 15 and became a top 100 chess player in 2019. Nijat has played and defeated some of the best, finishing 4th in the 2023 World Cup to earn an invitation to the 2024 candidates. He will be considered a long shot for this tournament, but has surprised the competition by even qualifying to the candidates.
Vidit Gujrathi, age 29, will be appearing in the candidates for the first time. Joining a rising number of Indian super grandmasters, Vidit has contributed to Indian success in the Olympiad as part of the national team. One path to the candidates is to do well in the FIDE Grand Swiss, a tournament that Vidit won, that has brought him to Toronto to face the best in the world. He joins his fellow Indians, Prag and Gukesh, in this edition of the candidates.
Hikaru Nakamura is a 5-time U.S. champion. Remarkably, at the age of 36, Hikaru will be the oldest player in the candidates field. Known as much for his social media presence as his chess prowess, Hikaru has turned his attention back to the upcoming World Championship. His domination in the faster time controls may serve him well if the candidates comes down to the tiebreaks. He was the 2023 American Cup winner and has been rated as high as number 2 in the world as recently as last year. Millions of Nakamura fans will be cheering for Naka in this year's candidates.
At 20 years old, the Frenchman Alireza Firouzja has shown amazing talent, becoming a grandmaster at the age of 14, and in 2022, Ali achieved number 2 world's rating with a 28.04. He's been to the candidates before. At the age of 18, he qualified for the 2022 candidates, the youngest participant to achieve this feat. His performance in winning the 2022 Sinquefield Cup and ultimately the Grand Chess Tour was proof of his rightful place among the very best.
Another one of the Indian powerhouse chess players in this tournament, 17-year-old Domaraju Gukesh, known as Gukesh, is the youngest participant in the Toronto candidates. He started early, earning the title of Grandmaster at age 12 years, 7 months and 17 days. Gukesh proved he could play with the best, defeating Magnus Carlsen in 2022 at the prestigious WR Masters tournament, and tying for first in 2023 at the same tournament. Gukesh is the youngest player to surpass a rating of 2750, dethroning his boyhood idol, Viswanathan Anand, as India's top-ranked player. Gukesh, part of the Indian tour de force at this year's candidates.
The stages are set, the players are primed, the best of the best are ready to face off in the 2024 Grand Chess Tour. The top players in the world prepare to battle across 4 countries for a $1.5 million prize fund. Everything starts in Warsaw with the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland. Then off to Bucharest for the Superbet Chess Classic Romania. The players then travel to Zagreb for the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia. The tour concludes with back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri, the chess capital of America, for the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinquefield Cup. 9 players will go in, but only one can be crowned champion. Who is prepared to make history? Get ready for the return of the Grand Chess Tour.
I'm Grandmaster Maurice Ashley. Join me on October 24th to 26th for the St. Louis Chess Conference, to be held right here in the chess capital of America. Also featuring legendary world champion Garry Kasparov and Hall of Fame inductee Judith Polgar, the conference will explore the broader educational and social impact of chess. Early registration ends April 30th. Go to stlouischessconference.org and sign up today.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. championships, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today. The St. Louis Chess Club Scholastic Program brings the educational value of chess to kids in schools across the St. Louis area. Active in over 100 schools throughout the St. Louis City and County, the St. Louis Chess Club has been able to reach over 85,000 students in both in-school and after-school programs. We view chess as a valuable educational tool. Learn more about our scholastic programming by visiting stlouischesskclub.org/education.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a look at our current standings. We do have some games already finished.
Yes, we do. And what games they were.
Gukesh won his game against Vidit, and Hikaru defeated Fabiano Caruana. So at the moment, Gukesh in clear lead, sharing second Jan Nepomniachtchi, Prag, and Hikaru.
With everything to play for in the Jan game. Jan is slightly better. We suspect a draw, in which case they will be tied, but there is an outside possibility that Jan could win and maintain his lead. In the ladies' standings, 2 huge clashes at the very top.
And we have one result in the ladies so far. Goryachkina drew her game against Lagno. So far, 5 points for Goryachkina and Zhongyi. Lagno with 4.5, but we expect Lei to win her game and join the leaders.
Exactly, knocking her countrywoman Tan out of the lead. Lei would get 5 points. There'd be a 3-way tie at the top, and that would throw the whole tournament into a scramble. Let's just take a look at that game between Tan and Lee for just a moment. When we left it, we thought that Lee had played a magnificent game up to this point. The last move had been king f6. That got your point of approval. I want to say there, Miro, that move king f6, rook g2, and how bad is it? We know it's very bad, but from a numerical perspective,
it's a lot. If we count what's on the board, it's what? It's one pawn for black?
One pawn?
Pawn up, but according to the machine, it's almost like a rook. Or rather, in the first line, it's -7, but it's a little bit tricky with some rook h1s and so on. Well, the moral of the story is very simple. Black is winning with pretty much any reasonable sequence. I like this one, for example, to go to h3 with a clear threat of capturing on f3, going queen h5.
That looks very
And
good.
yeah, one of the things...
Defenses?
Like rook g5, and then you can still change your mind, but you can also do this. Take over here, take over here, take on g5. Well, take on g5 or even go king g7. So this pawn will protect you, and then you go queen h2, guard the bishop, and then you bring the rook. And I know it might seem like opposite-colored bishops. It's almost like an extra bishop, right? The bishop on f1 is absolutely locked out of the game.
Right.
So this would be, for instance, one of the lines, but I imagine there'll be more, and she's gonna find some. To add to this, Zhongyi is down to 1 minute.
1 minute. Wow. For me, I love that variation that you just prescribed, rook h3 with the intention of queen h5. And I love going into those opposite color bishop positions, especially as we just contemplate the fate of this bishop on f1 for just a moment. Where on earth is this bishop ever going to find activity with this pawn structure, the black pawns all on c4, all the way? This whole structure just limits white's bishop. Rook h3, queen f5. Go into that opposite color position that Miro just prescribed. That looks like a game over right there. I want to turn our attention to the open section for just a second and go and check in on Jan, because during our break, we have discovered a pretty funny variation, Miro. Tell our viewers what it was.
First of all, it's funny up to the time when it's not, right? That was the position, I think, where we left it. G5, and us grandmasters, of course, seeing the pawn.
Yum, yum.
And that's pretty much what we were fighting for 10, 15 moves. Like, let me win your pawn. Okay, we were hoping for this one, but let's win that one.
Right.
And this is exactly what happened. And Abasov went rook e2.
Right.
And yes, the king on a3 is not ideally safe, one can imagine.
But I have rook c4 check.
Bishop c5 check, then king c6 and mate?
No way.
Okay.
I don't believe you. I'm going to play h4.
Well, we ask computer. Computer says, okay, b4 is the move, but then we understand, even if the pawns are coming off the board, white's pawn up, but black's rook is active, king is too far from the action, so very likely a draw.
Right.
And we, with Yasser, we said, yeah, but...
let me win another pawn.
Why can't I just go h4? There is no threat to the white king, right? So a check here, king a4, king c6.
I take a pawn.
And it looked like a blunder because now we take, and after this check, we can block.
Yes.
That was
the intention.
Our guess, yeah. But the sad reality is, and it's, it's ironic in a way, that we were... after this rook e2, we were paying attention to the second rank, and black turns to be winning, returning the rook, and then coming back from that side. So black, in few moves, kind of begging white, just take my pawn, please, because that's the only thing that kind of stops me from checkmating you.
Right.
I don't think this happens on the board, but the question is, what moment Jan will realize that
should play
this is the
before.
case.
Yeah.
Because, say, if you've gone h4 and get this check,
yeah,
the only move not to lose would be to go b4, which is, well, I mean, white's not losing. Yeah, white's not worse, but neither is black, right?
No.
It's a check, king b3, and You just take. Yeah,
Right.
not enough pawns left.
No, a draw is inevitable in this case. But, okay, I understand that after the move b3, b4, yeah, my winning chances are very, very slight, but however slight they may be...
Yeah, okay, let's check.
Isn't it my side of the table?
Okay, takes here, king takes, and let's find out. Yeah, king e6 looks nice.
Yeah, quick question for you there. King e6. Now, forgetting about our table basis, because who knows what they say, I take your pawn. I've got 3 connected passed pawns for a bishop. Do I have any chances of winning?
They're really far away, I'm going to say
Why? Why are they far away? 3 pawns.
No,
I don't think they're going to make it too far.
Wait a second. I have a question.
Please.
If I go bishop d4 in this position, bishop
Yeah.
e5, and king d5, and who's playing for a win? Because I'm worried about your king, Yasser.
Okay, bishop d4, king, bishop e5.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the board, h4.
Yeah.
H3 might be safer, gosh knows. But you're saying we might be playing rook and bishop versus rook and...
Potentially. No, I don't believe in it. Yes, no, I mean, honestly, I don't believe in any other encounter but
There was a fantastic game that was going on in the U.S. Championship in the ladies section. And it was a rook versus 4 pawns. Do you remember that? And Alice Lee was like doing her best, a rook down to keep playing the position. Here, I've got 3 pawns for the bishop. Why shouldn't I be playing the position?
If the pawns were pushed much farther,
Like, how far do they have to be?
like f5, g6, h6, then white wins.
Say that again?
f5 and then g6 and h6, game over, right?
Okay,
Should
so
be.
they got to be. So let's just make a bad move for just a moment. I'm going to go rook f2, pawn here, rook e2, pawn here, rook here. Tell me when you think I'm getting warm. Right here, I'm not. And you don't feel it. You don't. So even if I get my pawns to f3, g4, and h5, you're not giving me.
No, I don't see
Happiness.
how white can win this.
Okay, so by the way, we do have in the live position, the current position, Jan recognized that maybe this game.
He's not taking that risk.
No risk. B3, B4 by Jan, and he's played it right. And you're expecting takes, king takes B4, king E6, no bishop sacrifice. You guys are party poopers. I can see you.
Wait a second.
Isn't
There
Jan
is
winning
some
another pawn?
really weird line suggested by
Please.
computer.
What's that?
Right, so we go, yeah, if I may, so we trade on b4, and I think that's what you guys were looking, and bishop g7.
Oh, we don't sacrifice it.
Right, we try to win it for free.
Of course.
And then anything like king f5 or something, well, just takes and much better. The computer insists on this being a draw.
H5.
And yeah, like rook e4.
Well, we
I
don't
can
like- we
imagine.
don't like.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Take the pawn.
But what happens? Rook takes g5 and with 2 pawns up.
Bishop
And
D8.
then bishop to d8, and one starts wondering, I mean, what's that? But the only purpose is to take the g2 pawn, and whenever you take the g2 pawn, so there are no connected passed pawns, and the king is too far. Apparently, white just can't gather his stuff together.
Right.
What I'm thinking, though, is there a potential for white playing rook and bishop against the rook? Somehow, you know, guarding,
pushing
saving one of the
F4,
pawns,
F5.
bringing the king back, then
Right.
playing another 50 moves, something. Black loses his temper, sacrifices the bishop for the remaining pawn, you know.
Okay.
And what's even more impressive after rook g5,
bishop d8.
this apparently is also a move which I would see as a just terrible move. I mean,
Catastrophe.
you just blundered rook e5.
Right.
The answer is no.
Bishop h6.
King f7 and
Oh, there's rook b2.
Bishop
there's
h8.
Bishop h8. Absolutely.
Don't tell me.
Bishop d2, and I just take this guy.
Okay.
It's the
And
same
again,
thing.
I take on h5, and we get that same ending that you
Right.
just mentioned. Yeah.
And somehow, yeah, it doesn't make sense, of course, to analyze this type of positions with computer, but yeah, it just shows why computer is so superior nowadays. Like some pieces, trajectories we are not looking at at all.
That was when I started getting depressed looking at computers, as I had these positions like this one, where I would get myself very excited. I'm 2 pawns up and the computer would just be shutting me down. Draw, draw, draw. And there's just nothing
We have
to
another
play
interesting endgame between Salimova and Muzychuk. We have rook against knight and a pawn.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to the ladies' event for just a moment. And you were saying that we thought earlier that Nirgil was close to winning, in fact, and now it's interesting ending. Rook and knight, pardon me, rook versus knight, and well, white has a very clear objective. She wants to go rook check and king takes. What's happening?
I was going to ask you that.
I was first. I was very clever. I got in. Well, yeah, I would say that white is the one pushing matters. How probably this is going to be a table-based draw, I would suspect, after knight h5? Or
can I show you a very interesting moment?
Yeah, I can't really look at this position. Yeah,
just
please
a couple
show
moves
us.
ago, if you can go back, Yasser.
Tell me when.
Right here.
Right here.
White to move?
Yes.
Yeah, white is winning after rook takes e5.
Which is a move you always want to play, at least look at, because takes takes.
It's not even that complicated.
I go king f7.
Wait, maybe it is complicated.
What is the move
If
now?
I go king d6, king f6, I think black's fine. So I have to go king.
Yeah, you go king d7.
Oh, king d7, king e5, king e7. That doesn't
King
look winning.
here, king here.
No, I think white needs to play king f4 instead of king d6.
And king here. Okay. So
Here, king f4.
So once again, we sacrifice the exchange. We go king f7.
King f4 here.
And now we play king f4. And if I go king f6.
e5. And then I go around.
And now you go around. And you're saying, I can't. So your pathway to victory is to bring your king here.
Yes.
And if I hang about and wait for you, I'm losing.
Yeah, king f5, king d6, and my e-pawn is faster than your h-pawn.
Well, that's terrible. And as you just said, your e-pawn is much faster than my h-pawn. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I can't...
Big missed opportunity.
Well, oh, you're just going to shut me... King f4, and it's just... So
I just
if
know
I
that
go...
engine says +10, so...
So you want to say that I can't meet you here. Let's say...
No.
Where do I want my king?
King c5, king b6.
Ah, exactly. Oh, no. So there was a clear-cut victory.
Yes.
Oh, she is going to be so furious with herself, because it's one of those things that you're at the board and you're sensing it. You feel it, and then you calculate a draw, and then you don't do it, and it was there. The current position, if you don't mind, Miro, because you've got it on your board.
Current position is equal. Oh, I mean, white has slight plus, but yeah, so rook h3 was played, and then all you have to do is just go to g6. Let me see. E5's draw.
F5.
E5,
No, F5
E5.
maybe E5.
F5, E5, yeah. F5,
It's a way
E5,
to
you have to
lose
be very, very careful. Yeah.
There's a way to lose it. Okay.
Right. Well, once again, according to the machine, like move the knight, F4
Yes.
or F8.
And that's
That's
table-based
draw, or just go E5, and that's
Okay.
also a draw. So there was a brief moment where white was winning
Exactly.
by
Well,
capturing on E5.
I'm going to jump back to our tournament leaders game in the open section, Jan versus Nijat, for just a moment, because we do have this situation where Jan is enjoying an extra pawn, and instead of the move king e6, which has, I must say that bishop e3 looks, it has the logic of prepping the move h5, defending, and
White rook is kind of stuck on g4, defending g2, so...
yeah.
Can white play h4 maybe?
Precisely. That was the one I wanted to ask. h4, h5, right?
Okay, rook g3.
Rook G3, bishop. It's kind of, well, we're getting a little bit tricky there, but bishop E3.
On H4, I was going to just take on H4.
I think so too. I think that's like absolutely the most principled and simplest.
Then king comes close.
Yeah, should be a draw. Well, we're getting that point in the broadcast where, well, our big scores have been determined already. This game heading towards a draw. For those of you who are joining us late, you missed an extraordinary fight between Hikaru and Fabi. Hikaru bested Fabi in a splendid game, a great fight between those two as their rivalry flares anew. And as we're preparing for our broadcast, you've got the game of Tan and Lee on your screen, Miro.
Right, I just expect the game to finish any time.
Right.
It's, the numbers
keep growing.
That computer is giving, they're better not to be announced. And it's very hard to find even the slightest idea how on earth White can survive in this.
Right.
I think sometimes it's the only factor which prevents you from resigning the game is you're in such a time trouble that you don't understand how lost your position is.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just keep finding moves kind of not to lose immediately. But this is absolutely terrible.
Yeah. There's some quip like that goes like that. I would have resigned, but I didn't have the time. I mean, I was so short on time, I had to move quickly. But yeah, this one looks really done and dusted. The last move especially, all of the black pieces just poof. And as we expect this game between Nepo and Nijat to more or less go towards a draw, let's just take a look at Nepo's road ahead, because he came in as our tournament leader, Nazi.
Right, so tomorrow he's playing Firouzja with black, then Gukesh with white, and then
huge game,
Vidit with black. Yes.
Yeah, that game round at 10. But which Firouzja is going to show up? The Firouzja that at one time was at -3, or the Firouzja that played a brilliancy against Gukesh? Anybody in this tournament can upset the tournament leaders, and maybe Firouzja is destined to play the role of spoiler. And here we see our two-time candidate winner challenger, and boy, he looked great in the two tournaments that he won. He undefeated in his first, but in his second as challenger, he won the tournament with a round to spare. And the joke was he celebrated early. He did lose his 14th and final round when he'd already clinched first, did Nepo. And again, the candidate suits him. Everything. He's undefeated.
He's figured out how to win every candidate.
Right, well, I mean, if you could package that, sell it for $1 million.
And currently his game, he still has some small chance to trick his opponent, right?
Absolutely. What makes him such a formidable contender? What is it that he does that the others haven't?
I think it's just experience at this point and preparation. I mean, his opening prep has been absolutely incredible.
He saved the game, the incredible prep by, I want to say Hikaru, and he navigated his way around that. And he is currently the only undefeated player because Fabi lost today, right? And as we were riding here together in the car, Miro, you mentioned that your friend Sasha has been doing post-game broadcasts, and he said that the move A5 was all in his files. Tell your audience where you're getting
a little bit of a spoiler, but one of the, I believe, still world's very best experts in opening theory, and still I would put him like not in the top 10, not very far from top 10. Russian Grandmaster Aleksandra Goryachkina, yes. he's done recaps after each round, and this super sharp game between Hikaru and Nepo,
Right.
where we announce at some point, okay, this is a new move, and how do we do it? We check the database, right? So the move was not played. And 5 moves into this new territory, Goryachkina looks at it, yes, I had to check the files, everything's correct up until now. So he has all this, and I imagine he's not the only one who has everything of that analyzed and stored, and you never know if you get to play this one, right?
So
this kind of position. But you always have to keep kind of new ideas coming and so on and so on. It's such a, in a way, it's such an unproductive job to keep analyzing. It gets stored, and then some other guys would play it in a tournament, so it's no longer new, but they have to do it.
Let me sum up what you said for our audience. Essentially, there was a novel move, a novel idea, and both players continued to play that novel idea as if everything was known until they reached a position that really was new. Knight d7 was new for Hikaru. Hikaru had been focused on bishop d8. But for Aleksandra Goryachkina, everything was absolutely okay and standard 5 moves after the novelty. And you're saying what's really amazing about these guys is they prepare, and the moment somebody else plays it, it's not new. They can't play it themselves.
Absolutely, because yes, as much as impressive the novelty is, and you might never kind of consider this move, the moment it's played, the moment we've seen it's on a broadcast or elsewhere, everyone comes home,
right,
runs the computer, and to find this, maybe you've spent a week, you know, analyzing various lines, but whenever it's out, one needs a couple of hours to figure out if it works or not.
Exactly.
That's, yeah.
One of my banes as being a chess player is I like to play this variation of the Nimzo-Indian, the classical, with queen c2. And I had what I thought were some pretty good ideas. And there was one, Garry Kasparov, who seemed to be like 2 steps ahead of me. He would get to play the novelty every time ahead of me. And I'd be like, you know, shaking and going, bring us up to date with Miro, if you don't mind, between Jan and Nijat for a moment, because the last move I had was bishop e3. Oh, we do have h4
We
as well.
do have h4.
Okay.
And what's interesting, Nijat's thinking after h4.
Okay.
And, well, according to the machine, Nepo made a lot of progress in an interesting way. So now, before that, like, any sane move would draw for black. Now black has strictly only move, which is to capture on h4.
Which is what we
And for instance, the line that you guys were discussing at some point, h5 is already quite problematic, because white gets rook e4,
right,
pins you,
oops,
and then if you insist, or you were not, but I thought, yeah, let's give a check take on g2. King to c5, and you know, the moment you take on g2, forget about this part of the board. We have rook, bishop, and the king attacking this king.
Rook e7 check.
It's not a surprise that after that, well, you have to go king d8 and be 35 pawns down, whatever it means according to the machine. Because king c8, king c8, king c6 is a checkmate in 4.
Wow.
In 4. Simple.
So, look, I mean, here, or rather a couple of moves before, we said, okay, this has to be a draw.
Right.
And it turns out you're, well, in the current position, you're 3 moves away from being dead lost.
Wow.
So while it's a draw, for computers, it's nowhere near equal.
Exactly. And once again, the path to equality is narrowly g5 takes h4. That's not exactly equality either, right?
Yeah, right. It's like, again, you hold it, but it's not like you've made a draw. You didn't simplify the position. White's pawn up, and white will continue playing.
I apologize. So h5, again, that looked to my eyes as a playable move. Rook e4, as you said.
Rook e4.
Could I play bishop d2 check?
That's exactly what happened.
Trade
and then king goes here, and if you trade the rooks,
I'll take on h4. I'd rather have my king on e6.
Yeah, that's the problem, because the pawn on g5 is hanging, and you are not in time to stop king d5. So if there was a way that you include king e6 and I can't take, so I just
bishop d8,
do something, I don't know, d4.
Yeah, right.
Then after g4, it's of course a draw.
Right.
You have the fortress, or you take, but even like g4, you have the fortress. The problem is, that the moment the rooks are swapped, the g5 pawn kind of hangs in the air.
Right.
Right. And if you capture on h4, once again, a terrible mistake for white would be to capture back on h4 because you go king e6.
Yeah.
But king d5, and this, okay, I believe the computer, it says it's winning. I'm not convinced how you win this one.
Because I go bishop e1, you go
you probably
e5.
get, say, you get the pawn on e6, king has to be on e8, and you march here, and you collect both of those.
You collect them both.
Yep.
Yikes. Wow. On
Ain't
such
simple.
things, the entire tournament could swing on the outcome of this game. The move h4, g5 takes, because again, Nazi, that move h5, it's very seductive. It's sort of like, oh, I know, you include bishop d2 check first.
King c4?
Bishop d2 check
Then
first.
you have to watch out for king d3.
No,
Rook f2, bishop d4 ideas.
Sorry, I have to do
You have to watch out for king d3 here, rook f2, bishop d4 ideas.
Gotcha, and it's the same thing. I wanted to play h5, rook e4, rook g2, and fall for rook e7, and where I'm down 35.
Yes.
Oh, but your king was on c5.
Here you can do...
Because your king was on c5 in the previous line.
No, h5, of course. I'll just go here.
Like
of course, I don't know why, of course, why I'm saying this, of course.
Easy.
Yes, Yasser was hoping to make a draw, that's why I love to...
King d3.
Anyway, it turns out, I will not go through all the lines, but white's completely winning. For instance, we've made a couple of logical moves for black.
Exactly.
Bishop d2, h5. Yeah, so we refuse to kind of play this position for ages, and we are trying, and that's very common. It's not only the commentators, that's players' mindset.
Exactly.
Like, if you can calculate a line, make sure everything's correct, and make a draw, normally you should go for it.
Of course.
Instead of what we call suffering for 30 moves, 40 moves, 50 moves.
Suffering indeed. Let's take a look at the women's standings before we jump over to Toronto and see why the standings have been really shaken and stirred here.
We only have 2 results so far, but the standings in the top has changed a lot. So Goryachkina, Lei Tingjie, and Zhongyi now share in first place with 5 points.
Wow.
And Kateryna Lagno in clear 4th with 4.5.
Let's jump to Toronto as Anastasia caught up with Lee. Over to you, Toronto.
Tingjie here with us. Congratulations on your victory. You just won a very important game. You defeated Zhongyi, who was leading before this round. How does it feel?
Honest, a little bit happy, but I think I should focus on the next rounds.
Yeah, but you won 3 games in a row. Like, did you get some kind of piece of advice before, like, the tournament didn't go so well, and then suddenly you found your shape? Like, how did you change your mindset?
I think maybe the first half I didn't have to get used to play the tournament. Also, I haven't been playing chess for a long time after last match. So I think after a few games, I think something can be back. But okay, I also had 2 draws, which was very lucky. But later on, maybe some side of it that I should really to fight.
Yeah, I mean, you have also your second here, Nakamura, right? He's helping you during this event. I mean, how does it feel to work with a grandmaster of such a caliber?
It's very pleasant to work with him, and also the husband is also like a grandmaster, so every day we just discuss chess together and work together and share some a lot of things. So I think our atmosphere is perfect.
Great. And let's check the game a little bit. I think there was a moment that she could actually finish the game with repetition. Yes, you were repeating at one point
Yeah.
of the game. So why do you think she deviated from the repetition?
I think she thought the position was better for her, and also she has a pair of a bishop. But when she played f4, I think the position will be, kind of like complicated. Also, I think a pawn structure is not good for white.
Yeah, and also, let's say both of you didn't castle in this game. So let's say, what was the moment? Did you feel any danger for your king at any point, or you actually thought that everything is going fine?
No, when I started to play bishop d6 and bishop e7, no, I mean from this repetition, I think I really needed to do it because otherwise I think I feel some danger. But later on, I think the position was totally fine because the king, I think it's much safe than like a castle. Okay, I have no way to castle.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I mean, what was the moment you felt that things go your way?
Because she was in time trouble. Generally, I think she's a player who plays very fast. So I think maybe she was very unpleasant for this position, and also gave me a confidence to play this game.
Yeah, you played so many games against each other, I presume.
Yeah,
so you know her very well, right?
Yeah.
And you're also teammates, exactly. Yeah. So now you are sharing the first place. What is the plan for the next games?
I think just focus on the game, not to think about the result too much.
Yeah. How do you do it? That's the most difficult advice.
Okay, today I finish and tomorrow maybe will be the new start. Just consider about the tomorrow will be the first game so far.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your advice, and we are going back to the studio.
Thank you indeed, Anastasia, a happy winner, but also taking it game by game, one at a time, as we would say. We have some developments going on in the Anna Muzychuk as well as Hompi's game. What's happening? Which game would you like to go to?
Let's go to Hompi Vaishali's game.
Okay, let's do Hompi then. And we have... against Vaishali, exchange, extra for white. But look at this. Oh, this is a great compensation, I want to say, this pawn on b2.
That pawn is as good as a rook.
It really is a fabulous pawn. Now, on the other hand, white's last move is in 15 seconds. I see 45 seconds.
They're both in huge time trouble. Wait, I think Vaishali just blundered with rook c4.
I think that allows d6, right? Her intention, of course, is to play rook c1, but don't forget there is a pawn.
I can play d7 right now. I don't even have to play rook b2.
What?
I can just go d7.
I take your rook.
You promote to a queen.
And then I promote to a queen.
Oh, you have rook f1 check?
Yes. Yes, rook f1 check. I assume you move your king. I promote to a queen. And here, I'm a bishop ahead, right? But that move rook takes b2 is, oops. I think Vaishali overlooked that if you take it now, you get the same situation. There's no way to stop the pawn from promoting. And she did it with 15 seconds. And again, do we have yes, we do have d6 on the board, and she's down to 10 seconds. I mean,
I don't think she can defend this. There's rook
it's
c8
time to go back.
Move.
Rook c8, only move. She did it, it looked like with 4 seconds on the clock.
And white now could include rook d5 before pushing d7. Because I really want to kick that bishop out of e5.
Exactly. Okay, rook to d5. I agree that the bishop is. So I'll be obstinate. I'll play f6. Are you going to sacrifice the exchange?
Not yet.
Not
There's
yet.
no rush, right? I can play.
Okay. Do it.
And rook d5 is on the board.
f6.
Let's play d7.
d7, rook d8. Let's do it. I still got this pawn in my pocket. I'm not threatening to take on g5, of course. You've got moves here, but where's your win?
I could play rook b to d1, so I can free up the other rook.
Okay. Resolve the situation. h6. Please do something. You could take. Whoa! She's moved the bishop.
To c3 instead of
Oh,
f6.
I wanted to keep the bishop on what I thought was a crucial square. Miro, jump in on the action here. We've just seen rook to d5, bishop c3. I don't think f6 was saving it. I was trying to be a little stubborn.
Well, this I'm not sure. It's just clear so here, 2 moves ago, 3 moves ago. No problem for black whatsoever. Rook c4, d6. Suddenly, huge problem, and you identified the line, and f6 was, after rook c8, rook d5, good or bad, f6 was the only way to keep fighting, because after bishop c3, e5 is very strong. I mean, there are other moves, but e5 particularly, and then this pawn's not running anywhere, and you come with the king to like e4, d3, in some cases, and e5's on the board.
And e5 is on the board, and once again, we're seeing Vaishali taking all 30 seconds of her bonus time for each move to be made, and king f8 on the board. Yes. I really like this move, king e4 and king d3, just chasing this bishop off of the short diagonal, because I'll have d7.
Yeah, white's not in a rush anymore.
No.
Yeah, this is very sad. She was defending so well, she came back.
From a hopeless position and almost...
And time trouble.
Right. And there we see...
King e4 is on the board, and this game should be over soon.
Humpi has not had a great candidates tournament. In fact, let's just be frank about it. She's had a bad tournament. This is the type of game that could turn things around in her favor. Sometimes you just need to get lucky. There's no other way about it. And it looks like she is going to win this game. Last move, rook a8. We're expecting king d3. Let's jump back to the open tournament for a second, and we're going to go back to Jan versus Nijat. And from Jan's perspective, he's a pawn-up. How serious is his chances?
Same thing. It's up a pawn. We don't need computer much in this situation, because always says that white cannot win. From what I can see, black cannot make a draw, meaning like black cannot force a draw. Yes, we'll have to endure all those.
And speaking of endurance, bishop g5.
Bishop to g5.
I would suspect that's one of the good moves.
It's a good move, and like again, computer says, okay, bishop f2, something. Just continue playing.
Right.
Just continue playing and checking. Yeah, the time they're down to like 5 minutes, under 10 minutes, both of them.
Right.
And you can really go on for pretty much forever with white.
Exactly. Just a quick question for you, Miro. After the move bishop f2, king f6, which was not played, is this bishop ending completely even?
Bishop d4.
Right.
This is the one here.
Yes, bishop d4, king takes g7.
G7, king e5. I just misclicked. Yeah, this one is.
So
bishop e5.
Say,
I guess whatever. King g6.
King e4,
king
h5.
e4.
I think that's important to get in h5.
Something like that.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure if computer should be trusted on this one, but according to machine, it's absolutely equal.
That's what I thought too. Just wanted to make sure.
Really.
Let's just break away from our analysis of this. I was going to toss it to Toronto, but they're getting set up. King e2 on the board. So rook.
Pardon me. Wrong board.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
instead of the move.
Nepo's game.
Yes, instead of king f6. Nijat did play the move rook d5 check, king e2.
He can activate his rook now. He can play rook d2 check.
Okay.
He goes to the first rank, and I can keep my rook on the second. Let's say rook c2 or rook a2.
Okay, get out of dodge, right?
I'm like, how does
I'm going to go g3. I'm going to play f4. Well, I don't know. Maybe on a good day.
King f5.
Okay, king f5. Good move. Good move. What's the chances of rook and bishop versus?
Go to b7, yes, to b5, I think. Yeah,
yes.
In fact, white should be able to come up from the corner and then slowly,
king here. The problem was what you just showed us. Anytime I try to trade rooks, you can take it.
Yeah,
That's
fair enough.
the problem.
So you mean like white won't be able to activate his king?
Yeah, like
right?
if I put my rook on e2 as white, like I cleverly play. Now we can pause our action and throw it to Toronto, where we have a happy humpy with Anastasia.
With Humpy Koneru, who just won the game against her compatriot Vaishali. How was the game? It felt that you had to win it a couple of times.
I was having a big advantage after the opening. Like once she played this e5 break, I was completely better. Because in many of the positions, I'm getting a better end game when she captures on e6. So when she went for this knight c5, she lost the exchange by force. And it should be a much more comfortable win for me, but I made a lot of mistakes, and I think I was very close to draw, and even at some point I even felt like worse when she had this opportunity to play f5 when the bishop was on c5.
Can you show this moment?
I think instead of bishop d6, 35th move.
Somewhere here. Do you remember around which?
Yeah, here. No, later on, just
bishop d6, yes.
Yeah, here even I felt f5 was like quite dangerous for
here.
me. Yeah, here f5, yeah.
Yes, like somehow.
Well, I lost all the advantage, to be frank. Later on, only when she played a further mistakes, allowing my g5 and then letting the d passer, only then I got a chance. There were several ways to draw the game for black.
Yeah, so somewhere here already.
Yeah,
yes,
it's
you
already lost because
yes.
I managed to improve my position. She should have played f6 or else just to activate the rook before, like instead of.
Yes, somewhere here, it seemed like she was blocking the pawns.
Yeah,
yes,
here
and
just rook c7, rook c6, rook a7, rook b6, rook a1, rook f1, rook c1.
Yeah, so then after that, after you managed to bring your pawns forward, it was winning for you. How was it to play against Vaishali? Have you played before?
Yeah, I also played in some classical games and also this chess.com Bleach event. So we had several games.
Yeah, so you said that during the game it was like up and down, let's say.
Yeah,
why do you think it's tension here in the tournament?
No, I think I'm not doing well here. I'm struggling a lot because this is my first win in the tournament coming in the 8th round. So that shows that.
But it's very important victory, right? It's very important victory. Do you feel like more optimistic about your event after that?
Well, I'm really not thinking about that. The way I played my games, so I was losing my rating badly. So I just want to, play my game normally.
Yes, I understand. Yes, I mean, this pressure of the candidates tournament. I mean, there's something different and unique about it. Don't you feel this way?
I think here players are much more well prepared.
Okay.
I think that's a big difference. Maybe they're more focused. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they prepare for a few months and have some camps. And
right.
What was your preparation for that event?
Yeah, I do made some preparations, but it seems it doesn't work so far. So
come on, still 6 rounds to go. Everything is still possible, Humpy. Thank you so much, and all the best of luck for you in the next rounds. And we are going back to the studio.
Thank you, Anastasia. And with that result, let's update the women's standings with 1 game remaining.
Let's take a look. We have 3 players sharing first place. Goryachkina, play in 10. Kateryna in clear 4th. And Humpy Koneru now with 50%?
Exactly.
No, minus 1.
Minus 1.
Minus 1.
Sorry, yes. And for Nurgel, it looks like her game is headed for a draw now. She has an exchange for a pawn, but Anna looks like she's going to be drawing. In the game between Jan and Nijat, Jan is enjoying the extra pawn, but I'm just looking at the position and I'm realizing maybe for the first time that there's almost a forced repetition, isn't there? Here, Miro, I'm just going to go check, and he's done it, and he drives the king to g2.
And rook a2 back.
And then rook e2 back, and
Then bishop e3, so
right.
you play f4,
Right,
this bishop f6.
But then that's the tempo. And again, the same thing. I'm threatening the bishop to come. I guess the line keeps going. It just keeps going on, going and going. And here I am threatening
Now white
this.
has to draw, so this is...
Yeah, this is not what you actually intended when you went into this. So I wouldn't be completely surprised by a forced repetition at this point.
It is a draw. It is a draw. So I was advertising the idea that white can go on forever.
But forever
and
is
I'm
not...
wondering where was the moment that white
could have...
Yeah, kind of could have fought better, so to speak. Yeah, well, perhaps not in this line. After king d3, bishop g5.
That was a good move.
Maybe there wasn't much. Maybe there wasn't much, yes. And currently what we have, indeed, yeah, white's f4 will be met with bishop f6.
Right.
And because it's a tempo, you are not in time to play king f3.
Right.
Like rook elsewhere, king f3, the game goes on. Moreover, white establishes this sort of coordination between the pieces and can advance further on. And now this check, king would go forward, but it's in vain because the rook is hanging. Yeah. And yeah, at f4, bishop f6, move the rook. Black goes indeed king f5. If you take bishop d4, and it's still a draw. It's still a draw, but yeah, you're the one who has to be careful.
Right? Who's playing the rook and bishop versus the rook? We do expect that this game would end in a draw, but that means that our standings will be, Jan came into today's round clear first. Well, with a draw, he'd only be sharing the first, because Gukesh won a very impressive game against Vidit. Fabi, who was just a half a point behind, now finds himself a full point behind.
He's at 50%
yes.
now? Yes.
And it's Hikaru who is giving chase a half a point behind. Big result. We're expecting that Jan makes a draw. Let's just talk about that for a second. Against Nijat, coming into the round, he was thinking, wow, a win today, and I could increase my lead.
No, I don't think you kind of expect it, but of course, yeah, you emphasize that with white, this is the game that it should be.
Player.
Yeah. He's the one, look, he's the one who did not win a mini-match against Abasov.
Right.
And there won't be too many of those.
Exactly. So in a sense, he's given up a half a point against Abasov to his rivals. But yeah, also to emphasize...
It's not like he didn't try. He tried his best, and Abasov just played really well. So
he did. So sometimes you just tip your hat. And let's look at Nepo's road ahead.
Tomorrow he'll be playing Alireza Firouzja with the black pieces. And in round 10, he'll be playing Gukesh, his co-leader, with the white pieces. That will be possibly the most decisive game of the tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, we like those Hollywood script writers who make the drama unfold. Round 10 promises to be that round that you're not going to want to miss as we wait to see if Nepo acquiesces to this repetition. Miro, I mean, anticipation of Jan's draw. Sum up some of this round, because what we saw between Fabi and Hikaru was such an important game. It just dominated the round for me.
Right, yeah. You know, one of the surprising things, I would say, and once again, I'm only trying to concentrate on Hikaru-Fabi game, is the way how fast...
Sorry to interrupt you. The draw...
Yeah, the draw's official.
Just official.
Yeah, the draw's official, but since I've started, I might as well...
Go for it.
So how easy it was, how easy Fabi kind of went down, and this was...
Shocking.
Shocking, in a way. Yeah, from the moment we were saying, like, this position is equal and comfortable for black, in, like, 3, 4... maybe this unlucky knight f4 move, like it got suspicious, but still, like if you're in the candidates, if you're performing well, you do not lose suspicious position in like 3, 4 moves.
Exactly.
it feels like, specifically today, Fabi wasn't at his best form.
That tenacity, I must say, Nazi, also for Hikaru. Hikaru, when he loses, you have to beat him in the opening, the middle game, the ending. He plays really, really, really tough. His loss was also a kind of abdication. We see that today. Once again, let's take a look at our standings. With all our games completed, Nazi, do the honors.
After 8 rounds, we have 2 co-leaders, Nepomniachtchi and Gukesh, with 5 points. Sharing third, Prag and Hikaru with 4.5, and the only one person with 50%, Fabiano Caruana.
Looking over everybody's shoulders, I would say. But there's our challenger, I would say, is coming out of the top 5 and maybe just the top 4. How about the ladies?
All right, let's take a look. I think there's still one game going on, but...
We could call that a draw. It looks like a table-based draw, but please.
So we have 3 players sharing first place, Goryachkina, Lei Tingjie, and Zhongyi. And only Kateryna Lagno was 4.5.
Again, I see the challenger coming out of those top 4. I just don't see any other way about it as we complete our coverage of our candidates round 8. Be sure to join us tomorrow for round 9. Tell your friends where you're hanging out. And, well, once again, our congratulations to Hikaru as he knocks off the undefeated Fabiano and grabs a share of the half point. Guys, it was great.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.